At a swamp forest, something pulsed with a strange glow. It came from a chunk of wood. Inside that wood was an organism. It was a soft, yellow, slug-like creature, round and squishy, with a big, bulging eye on top of its body. It looked around, confused about where it was. This organism remembered scrolling through his phone, reading manga in bed before he unknowingly fell asleep. He froze when it hit him. He had died and somehow ended up in another world. He chose not to overthink it, since things like this happen, and people usually accept it fast. Instead, he decided to stay practical, check his surroundings first, and figure out how to survive. He started shouting, asking if anyone was there. But when he noticed creepy red eyes staring at him, he quickly realized it was better to stay quiet. There were bugs and miasma everywhere, and everything felt damp, like the peak of humid season. And strangely, he felt comfortable. He snapped back to his senses, knowing this wasn't the time to relax. He wondered what exactly he had turned into. He felt like nothing more than a lump. Suddenly, a screen appeared. It showed that he was a level 1 slime mold, a weak creature with a decomposer trait. His health points were critically low, so autophagy had started. He was told to eat or hibernate immediately. He tried to process the fact that he had reincarnated as a slime mold and that his health was dropping. If he didn't eat soon, he would die again. He quickly looked around, searching for anything edible. Then he remembered his trait, decomposer. Slime molds are decomposers. They can eat wood, so he tried it. Now he understood how slime molds eat. The moment he thought about eating, his body spread out and wrapped around the target. The taste was surprisingly okay, like a soggy biscuit. After 15 minutes, he had already eaten a noticeable chunk of the tree, and he was full. A notification appeared saying he gained enough experience to level up. He reached level 2, and his health became full, 35 over 35. Another notice said he wouldn't gain experience from dead wood for 1 hour. He also gained 1 skill enhancement point. The available skills were Decompose at level 6 and Pulsation at level 2. He understood Decompose, but he had no idea what Pulsation was. Still, he chose to upgrade it just to see what would happen. It became level 3 and activated immediately. He learned that it allowed the protoplasm inside him to flow back and forth, creating movement. It felt almost magical. The moment it activated, the knowledge just appeared in his mind, even though he didn't think he had a brain anymore. Since eating wood wouldn't give him experience for a while, he decided to explore. To him, it felt almost magical that he could change his body shape whenever he wanted. He spotted a mushroom nearby. If a human ate something random like that, they'd probably end up in a coffin. But as a slime mold, he could somehow tell this mushroom was a delicacy. He slowly found the shortest path and began to scoot over. Even though slime molds move slowly, scientists discovered through maze experiments that no matter how complex the maze is, they can always find the fastest path. Even more insane, one experiment recreated the Tokyo subway system, something human engineers took 10 years to design, and the slime mold figured out a more efficient route in just 26 hours. He kept crawling toward the mushroom, and eventually, he reached it and wrapped his body around it. Now, it was time to eat. To him, this moment felt like finally meeting someone face to face after a long online relationship. The mushroom appeared as a woman asking if he was tough guy bang bang. He confidently said yes. She turned to face him, and he instantly realized she was toxic, and he had been scammed. In short, the system alerted the slime mold that toxins had invaded his body. Nutrients were being drained rapidly, and he was ordered to detox immediately. He had been poisoned. So he quickly pulled himself away. The system reported that decomposition failed. No experience was gained. The toxins were removed, and the poison status was cleared. However, he lost body mass, and his health dropped to 17 over 17. That scared him badly. Luckily, he realized he could cut off a part of himself to survive, and it seemed like he still managed to decompose a small part of it. He decided to leave it alone for now. He told it to wait until the general slime returns to camp and comes back stronger. He positioned himself back onto the dent in the chunk of wood, and after 15 minutes, he carved an even deeper dent into the wood. He was full. The system notified him that within the time limit, decomposing dead wood gives no experience. His condition returned to optimal at 35 over 35. He felt relieved to finally be back at full health. He crawled away from the tree. His plan was simple. Decompose a little, retreat before getting poisoned, return to heal using wood, and repeat the cycle. He called it Project Move Mountain. As long as he had enough time, he believed he could take it down. This encounter played out again, like those online lovers finally meeting in person. The mushroom woman told him to give up already since this was the 8th time. But this time, she was in cuffs and taken under arrest. In reality, the slime mold had finally conquered the mushroom. Decomposition was successful, and he gained experience. He also obtained poison resistance level 1. Now it made sense why he lasted longer and became more tolerant with each attempt. But to his surprise, he still didn't level up. He thought breaking down a mushroom would give a lot of experience, but it didn't matter. In a damp place like this, one thing was everywhere: mushrooms. The system notified him that the decomposition was successful, and he gained experience points from it. He leveled up to level 3. He also gained 0.5 skill enhancement points. He saw a straw pipe mushroom, which was safe and non-toxic. Decomposition was successful again, and that earned him enough points to upgrade to level 4. His poison resistance also increased to level 2, and he earned 0.5 skill enhancement points. He saw a monk's cap mushroom, highly toxic, but it gives a lot of experience points even if it was spicy. He also gobbled up a lot more mushrooms. He reached level 5 and gained 0.4 skill enhancement points. He was notified that decomposing mushrooms within 24 hours would no longer give experience points. His health points were full at 79 out of 79. Since he was full and had reached the limit, it was time for him to pack the rest of the mushrooms. While crawling on the way back, he happily sang about being a little mushroom expert, wearing poisonous mushrooms on his body as rations and protection. Just like he saw in the Animal World show when he was a kid, a crab uses sea anemones to scare away octopuses, so now he uses poisonous mushrooms to scare away monsters that want to eat him. He felt proud for solving his safety problem. Everything was going well until he saw something. Those bees were carrying a chunk of meat. He became cautious and hoped the poisonous mushrooms would scare them away. He tried his best to blend into the background. Unexpectedly, a tongue wrapped around a giant bee's body, and it got pulled straight into a frog's mouth. The slime mold was startled when he saw it happen. The giant bees surrounded the frog. He watched them fight while doing his best to stay hidden. The giant bees moved in on the frog, and stung and bit it. Although a single giant bee wasn't stronger than the frog, the swarm made up for it with numbers. He thought about picking up scraps from the fight. Logically, decomposing monster corpses should give much more experience than dead wood and mushrooms. The giant bees worked together against the frog. Eventually, the frog counterattacked with an empowered tongue. Using its long tongue, the frog slapped all the giant bees away, and then it gathered them into its mouth. The slime mold kept watching. Suddenly, a shadow hovered above the frog. Before it could even react, a snake-like creature had already eaten it. Blood splattered. This creature was a bird with a snake as its tail, and it noticed the slime mold. With nothing else he could do, he simply offered himself to it. It stared at him intently, and then it looked at the sky. Then it jumped away. The wind caused damage to the slime mold, reducing his health points by 30. But after that, everything went quiet. The night grew deeper. The slime mold settled on a chunk of wood. He made a hole and entered it, then covered the hole with mushrooms. He trembled as he realized he was at the bottom of the food chain. But luckily, because he was at the bottom, the gap between food chain levels was too wide, so he didn't end up on that monster's menu. At this point, the slime mold was already at level 5. His title was Weak Creature, and his trait was Decomposer. His health points were at 79 out of 79, and he had 13 remaining skill points. His skills were Decomposition at level 6, Pulsation at level 3, and Poison Resistance at level 2. Even leveling up 4 times in one night didn't change the fact that he was still a weak creature. As a slime mold, he wondered how he could survive and rise in the days ahead. He was exhausted and sleepy. He hoped it was all just a dream, and that when he woke up, he would be back under his blanket. Morning came. The mushrooms he used as cover started to melt from the acid. The acid dropped on him, causing him to lose some health points. He woke up from the pain and burst upward. The system notified him that he had gained a new skill called Burst, level 1. It stimulates the cytoplasm in his body to flow in one direction instantly, creating a powerful thrust. He can use it once every 5 minutes. The mushrooms scattered as he suddenly shot upward. He looked around to see who caused it. It was a snail that spat out acid. It melted the mushroom, and then took a bite of it. The slime mold got furious at this stinking snail. The snail noticed him. He was angry that it stole his mushroom. But what made it worse was when it dripped its saliva on his face, almost melting him. That, to him, was unforgivable. The snail tried to communicate with him, but he told it to stop acting like the victim. The snail looked dejected. Seeing that made him pause. They were both just struggling to survive, wandering this world, and trying to find something to eat. Maybe he was being too harsh. He decided not to make things harder for it. There were plenty of mushrooms anyway, so sharing a little wouldn't hurt. He told it to go ahead and eat. The snail happily gobbled up the mushroom. The slime mold suddenly felt like he had seen this kind of situation before. It was like a friendship born from a fight, a classic hot-blooded shonen trope. He started imagining them forming a party, increasing their chances of survival. Then changing classes, going on adventures, and building a bond strong enough to defeat a demon king. He realized that if he wanted to survive and grow stronger, companions might be necessary. So he invited the snail to form a party. They could watch each other's backs, and he would make sure it always had mushrooms to eat. The snail looked confused. Then, out of nowhere, it tried to eat him. It shocked the hell out of him. He barely managed to dodge, but he still got injured and lost 12 health points. His HP dropped to 62 out of 79, and he complained that it hurt like hell. That's when it hit him. Monsters in this world don't care about feelings. In nature, it's simple. Eat or be eaten. He had been fooled by its pitiful look. Even though they were both low-level monsters, it was clearly stronger than him. While it was busy eating, he took the chance to escape. But it noticed him and chased after him. He decided to use his remaining skill points and upgraded pulsation to level 4. Then he ran at full power. Our MC needed to run for his life. 3 minutes later, they had only moved a foot away from where they started, and the snail was already catching up. Its speed was almost the same as the slime mold. It inhaled deeply. Then it spat out acid. The slime mold took a direct hit. He lost 27 health points. His body split apart. He realized his consciousness stayed in the larger half, but he knew there was something more important to focus on. The snail approached him and opened its mouth. And it ate him. He split his body again, and the smaller part escaped. The snail was ruthless, and all he could do was endure. After the snail finished eating that part, it came for him again. He grabbed a nearby mushroom. The snail lowered its drooling, tooth-filled mouth toward the small yellow slime mold. But instead of being eaten, he used burst and shoved the mushroom straight into its mouth. It choked on it. It tried to shake the blockage away, but a few seconds later, it dropped dead. The system notified him that the target had been defeated. He gained experience points and leveled up to level 6. He also gained 0.6 skill enhancement points. His strategy worked exactly as he expected. He realized that even though the snail had many teeth, it still relied on acid to dissolve food first, because it had no poison resistance. The slime mold rejoiced after successfully defeating his first monster in this world. He became curious about what kind of surprise decomposing a monster would bring. He realized that the snail meat was slimy and disgusting, but he knew better, so he tried to pretend it was like eating fancy French cuisine. That didn't help. It just made him want to vomit. The taste was horrible. It was salty and sour, and the texture felt like thick snot. It was disgusting to the core. The system showed that the decomposition had been terminated, and he gained no experience points. He thought about throwing it away, but that would be a waste, especially since he risked his life to get it. And if he didn't get stronger soon, reality wouldn't allow him to be a picky eater anymore. His choices were simple: die or endure. So he tried again. He even pretended to pinch his nose, despite not having one, and swallowed it in one gulp. It was still disgusting. But this time he finished it completely. He threw the shell away, and right after that, the system notified him of the experience points he gained. He leveled up to level 7 and was restored to his optimal state. He couldn't believe he was restored because he felt even worse. He now had 1.4 remaining skill enhancement points. His upgradable skills were decomposition level 6, pulsation level 3, poison resistance level 3, and burst level 1. He simplified them in his head. Decomposition means eating, pulsation means running away, poison resistance means tanking hits, and burst also means running away. He complained that he didn't have a single skill meant for attacking, but complaining wouldn't change anything. He also knew his strength wasn't enough. Even if he had an attack skill, he wouldn't dare provoke stronger predators. So he chose to upgrade pulsation. Pulsation leveled up to level 4. He immediately wanted to test how much faster he had become. In one movement, he covered a distance of 20 centimeters. It was definitely faster, but 20 centimeters per second is only 0.78 kilometers per hour. And that made him want to cry. 1 week later, he had almost finished consuming the tree trunk. Hiding there was safe, but his resources were nearly gone. He only had enough left to level up twice. Now that he understood the physical limits of a slime mold, he decided it was time to find a new base. He decided to resupply one more time before setting off. By flattening his body and spreading into vein-like strands, he could move in multiple directions at once. The higher his health points, the more cytoplasm he had, and the wider his exploration range. He branched out like vines. In one direction, the system notified him that he successfully captured 3 white fungus mushrooms and stored them in his body. On the opposite side, he captured 6 small straw mushrooms and stored them as well. After mastering control of his body, he could store things inside himself or even decompose them while exploring, greatly increasing efficiency. In other parts of his body, he continued decomposing, and it was successful, earning him experience points. His poison resistance increased to level 4. Then he reached something that couldn't be decomposed, and it hurt him. He lost 9 health points. He immediately realized it was that thing again. He was hit by acid. Fortunately, his speed had improved. This time, he only lost 7 health points. Suddenly, a snail appeared right in front of him. He noticed this one was much faster than the previous ones. Still, he felt confident he wouldn't get hit again. Unfortunately, the moment it spat acid, he was struck head-on and lost 33 health points. The snail looked relieved, but in the next moment, it was caught off guard. The slime mold shoved a poisonous mushroom into its mouth. He revealed that he let himself get hit on purpose. After learning its weakness, dealing with it was as easy as flipping a hand. That was the difference in intelligence. The snail struggled, but he didn't let go. The poison spread through its body. Soon after, the system notified him that decomposition was successful, and he leveled up to level 10. The slime mold felt uncomfortable, but he couldn't deny it. The experience gained from decomposing monsters was incredibly high. He continued traveling, but then he spotted a creature hiding. He assumed it was another small snail, but when it came out, it was actually a blade-legged centipede. It towered over the slime mold. Seeing its sharp legs, the slime mold felt a chill of fear. It rushed toward him at high speed. He tried to keep it away by waving mushrooms, but it simply sliced them apart. The slime mold realized that trick wouldn't work on this one. In the blink of an eye, the centipede wrapped around him and tried to bite him. The strange part was, the slime mold's body was immune to sharp blade attacks. To his surprise, experience points were practically being delivered to him, so he didn't hold back. A few hours later, he found another target, and another one, but this time, it was a bee. It looked delicate and pretty, so he felt a bit bad that he couldn't reach it. He saw a cockroach too, but decided to just ignore it. He kept moving forward, happily devouring mushrooms along the way. At this point, he had reached level 13, with health points at 157 out of 157. He had 0.1 remaining enhancement points. His skills were Decomposition level 6, Pulsation level 8, Poison Resistance level 4, and Burst level 1. He realized that eating meat made a big difference. The leveling speed was much faster. He started to think that being a slime mold wasn't so bad after all, and suddenly, he felt like he could do it again. The slime mold started thinking about changing his diet. He especially wanted to try frog legs. Following that logic, as long as he survived the hardest early stage, everything after that would snowball. His growth would become unstoppable, and ruling this world wouldn't be far off. Along his path, he noticed another pool of water. He realized that the mangrove forest was full of pools like this. That made him think there must be plenty of resources underwater. He grew curious about exploring it. So he tried. But the moment he entered, his body swelled up so much that he felt like he might explode. The slime mold reacts to its surroundings. When it loses water, it shrinks. When it absorbs water, it swells. Like a red blood cell placed in fresh water, it expands uncontrollably, reminding him how fragile a single-celled life form really is. He quickly gave up on exploring underwater for now. Suddenly, something rose from the water. He froze when he saw a crab. The crab stayed low in the water, its eyes twitching as bubbles came out of its mouth. The slime mold immediately started thinking about how tasty it would be. Those thick, juicy claws. The rich crab roe. Finally real food after eating bugs for so long, he even tried inviting it to come closer. The crab moved onto a rock in the middle of the pool. It stayed cautious. He realized the crab wasn't falling for his tricks. So he decided not to waste more time. Jumping into the water just for a bite wasn't worth the risk. He thought of another method, maybe dissolving poisonous mushrooms into liquid and pouring it into the water. But suddenly, the crab attacked. It fired a barrage of bubbles. The attack hit him directly. It pierced through his body. The slime mold went pale as he saw the hole left by the water blast. Before he could react, the crab fired again. He rushed away and hid behind a tree. He realized that this creature's water attack could actually hurt him. Its strength was clearly on a different level compared to the bugs he fought before. If he stepped out, he'd become an instant target. So he waited. This would turn into a battle of patience. After a while, the crab went back into the water. He peeked out and thought it had given up, but then to his surprise, it climbed onto the shore. It moved fast and rushed straight toward him. He panicked. The moment he realized it truly intended to eat him, he hurried and climbed up the tree. He was left speechless when he suddenly became the prey. After climbing the tree to create some distance, he thought of circling around the trunk so the crab wouldn't be able to hit him with its water attacks. But on the tree trunk, he ran into another creature. It startled him at first, but when he realized it was just a spider, he told it to move. It didn't. He started getting annoyed. He warned the spider not to be ungrateful and move aside. He even bragged that he had eaten plenty of bugs like it. The spider attacked. It used arachnid slash and cut off a part of the slime mold's body. He was shocked. He thought he was immune to blade attacks. He lost 30 health points. The spider was level 16, and its technique, Way of the Sword, was already at level 8. While he was distracted, a water attack shot toward him. It hit him, making him lose another 17 health points. Now he had the spider in front and the crab behind him. He felt incredibly unlucky. Once again, he was cornered. The crab fired a bubble barrage, its water gun. The slime mold quickly deformed his body, causing the attack to hit the spider instead. The spider lost a limb. It froze for a second. Then it got furious and turned on the crab. It fired arachnid silk shot, followed by another arachnid slash. But the crab blocked it with its crustacean carapace skill. Then it counterattacked with crustacean clamp, while the spider responded with arachnid silk control. The crab was immobilized. The slime mold's plan worked. He shifted the aggro, letting the tiger swallow the wolf. The crab struggled to break free. The spider aimed for its eyes. But at the last second, the crab shoved it away. The impact was strong enough to make the spider's limbs tremble. Then the crab kept attacking the spider. The spider created distance. Then it wrapped the crab's claw in its web. It circled around the crab while continuously using arachnid silk control. The crab was fully immobilized, and the spider looked proud of its work. The slime mold didn't expect the spider to turn things around like that. But then, the spider noticed something strange. The bubbles coming from the crab's mouth started moving. A surge of water burst out. The crab went into a frenzy. It spun wildly while firing water blasts in all directions. And it sliced through the spider's body. The attacks were everywhere. Its survival instincts had kicked in. Even the slime mold almost got hit. Eventually, the water barrage stopped. The spider in front of it had been cut into pieces. The slime mold carefully peeked to check if the attack had ended. Then he slowly moved closer. He noticed that the crab had weakened after that outburst. Now he had to finish it. But how? If he covered its mouth, he'd risk getting eaten. If he used poisonous mushrooms, he wouldn't be able to force them in once the crab shut its mouth. And if he waited too long, it might recover and become even harder to deal with. Then he noticed a rock nearby. He tried to store it in his body, but the system notified him that he didn't have enough space. He remembered that his internal storage depended on his health points. Since he had lost a lot of his body earlier, and the rock was huge, it didn't fit. So he spat out all the mushrooms first. This time, he successfully stored the rock. The weight shocked him. It was insanely heavy. The crab turned its eyes toward him as he declared he was there to collect it. He jumped down from a branch with the rock inside his body. The crab, sensing danger, fired another water blast. It was still trying to fight. But the rock was already coming down, and it crushed the crab. Just like that, the fight ended. The winner of this three-way battle was the slime mold. He gained experience points and leveled up to level 14. He proudly declared himself the victor. Now, it was time to feast. He settled into a new tree trunk and placed both the crab and the spider inside. Then he happily dug in. First, he chewed on the crab claw. He was amazed by how delicious it tasted. Until now, he had been eating wood that tasted like moldy biscuits or slimy snails and bugs with all kinds of weird flavors. This was the first time he had tasted something truly good since his reincarnation. It almost made him cry. He realized that good food could actually heal emotional pain. At that moment, he became even more determined to survive in this world because of all the delicious food waiting ahead. Not wanting to waste anything, he ate every last bit. Later that day, he was full and satisfied. He was now level 14 with 168 out of 168 health points. He had 0.6 remaining skill enhancement points. His skills were Decomposition level 6, Pulsation level 8, Poison resistance level 4, and Burst level 1. Now that he was full and hydrated, it was time to try something new. He targeted a rock. Then he forced power through his body. He tried hard. so hard that his body started to deform. But nothing came out. He was trying to copy the crab's bubble barrage. Logically, the crab just forced water out of its body to attack. So if a crab could spray, then a slime mold should be able to do it too. His body strained from the effort. But what came out just looked like he pooped. He got frustrated that it came out from behind. He kept trying. He squeezed until his body went limp, but he still couldn't control the direction. And worse, what came out had no power at all. That made him furious. And in that moment, he accidentally activated Burst Level 1. He slammed into the rock. Then the system notified him. Burst had evolved into Cytoplasm Spray. Cytoplasm Spray Level 1 instantly mobilizes internal cytoplasm to create a powerful impulse, shooting it out of the body. He remembered that Burst used to have a 5-minute cooldown, but now it was gone. So he went into full frenzy mode and started spraying everywhere. He was thrilled that the skill had no cooldown. As he kept using it, the system notified him that he reached the required proficiency, and his skill leveled up to level 2. But at that point, he looked completely withered. He realized that the cost of using the skill was his health points. Every shot consumed his HP. His health dropped so low that autophagy was triggered. The system warned him to eat or rest as soon as possible. He slowly figured out how his abilities worked. As a slime mold, he had no magic. The cytoplasm in his body was his only combat resource. All his skills were based on the natural traits of a slime mold. That made him wonder. Did this mean he would never be able to use magic? That thought disappointed him. Right now, his only path was to keep decomposing and absorbing things. Growing his body properly, that was the true path forward. Then, a strange idea crossed his mind. If eating things helps him grow, what would happen if he ate himself? He found a chunk of his body that had been cut off earlier. He didn't expect it to be that big. He decided to test if he could absorb it back. The moment he did, strange memories flooded his mind, even though he didn't have a brain. The memory started from when that piece fell off while he was on the tree branch. Then that separated chunk received system notifications. It was experiencing a split body state and was recovering health points on its own. Later, it was notified that its current health was full, and its maximum health had increased by 30. The slime mold realized that even though the separated parts of his body had no real consciousness, they could still perform decomposition on their own. When he reclaimed them, he gained all the experience points and health they had accumulated. He was pleased to discover this little bug. He came up with a plan to split his body into multiple parts, send them out to work, and then reclaim them later. One mouth would become many. His leveling speed would increase drastically. He used division to cut off a piece of himself. One thing he noticed was that whether it was the main body or a split part, if health points dropped below 30, it would enter autophagy. Right now, his max health was 198. As long as there was enough food, he could create as many split bodies as he wanted. A chunk of him pierced through his center before separating from the main body. He was surprised that his idea actually worked. He couldn't help but grin. This felt like learning a shadow clone technique straight out of an anime. So, he made more. One chunk was assigned to a withered log. 2 others were sent to handle nearby mushrooms. The slime mold was now level 14, with 198 out of 198 health points. He had 0.6 remaining skill points. His skills were Decomposition Level 6, Pulsation Level 8, Poison Resistance Level 4, and Cytoplasm Spray Level 2. Now that his clones were set, he decided to finish decomposing the remaining spider meat to restore himself to peak condition. After all, when hunting, safety comes first. As he became more familiar with his slime mold body, he realized just how much stronger he had become. He was immune to normal piercing and slashing attacks. Even against stronger slashes, he could simply reconnect his body, making him effectively immune. At this point, even powerful physical attacks could barely threaten him. The only thing he was worried about was magic. But so far, he hadn't encountered any. Maybe his current area was too small. Or maybe this world was just another version of the animal kingdom. The water grew still, but bubbles slowly rose to the surface. 2 chunks of slime mold floated there, gently wobbling, as something beneath the water began to stir. Suddenly, a claw gripped the slime mold. Apparently, there were crabs in that pool of water. They crawled out, carrying chunks of slime mold, and they followed the slime trail. Until they noticed something. The slime mold pushed a tree, and it fell on them. Just like that, he caught 6 demon crabs. That boosted him to level 15. He finished decomposing them and restored himself to peak condition. He targeted the rock again, and used a plasmodial barrage. In his mind, he looked like a lone gunslinger, cloaked in dark robes, calmly aiming a massive weapon. He sprayed the rock, and reached the needed proficiency. His cytoplasm rose to level 6. After 2 days, he entered an autophagy state. This came from training, improving his power and accuracy. His limit at full stats was 30 shots. He started thinking of a way to get even stronger. He took a mushroom and a stone to add some spice to the move. He wrapped poisonous mushrooms and fired them, letting him poison targets from a distance. By the same logic, if he wraps stones and shoots them, he can boost physical damage. He tested it on his practice target and it worked. Confidence surged through him. The slime mold narrowed its eye, now fully convinced of its own genius. Suddenly, he heard a sound from the tree hollow. At first, he thought it was a bird, but the creatures glowed like fireflies. He climbed the tree. His curiosity took over. When he reached the hollow, he was surprised to see a glowing bird. It was exactly what he imagined earlier. He quickly backed away after seeing a monster that could use magic. He retreated as fast as he could. The bird watched him, and then it used symbiotic scrying. The bird shared its vision with a pink-haired human. She was with a team of adventurers. The blonde, middle-aged man asked if she found anything. She said no, but mentioned spotting a slightly strange little monster. The magician in the party found it strange that they hadn't encountered a single high-level monster on the road. The pink-haired girl rode a beast that looked like a bear, which she called Little Steelback. She ordered it to sniff carefully and guide them to the way out. Their magic communication couldn't reach the guildmaster, as if everything had been cut off. Meanwhile, the slime mold sensed that the beast had noticed him, so he ran as fast as he could. He knew he couldn't mess with that thing, but he had no idea where to go. He thought about crossing the river and hiding there to stay safe, but he didn't know how to get across. He applied the momentum theorem, and while midair, he activated plasmodial barrage. He flopped onto the other side, losing 80 health points. He kept running as fast as he could. When he was far enough and completely exhausted, he finally stopped. The encounter scared him badly. He decided to eat a branch to recover his energy. Even though he was strong against low-level monsters, facing something just one rank higher could kill him instantly. Suddenly, he felt an ominous presence. He panicked, thinking something had chased him there. The pressure felt even worse than that snake crane monster. He wondered if it was the owl, but then he realized it wasn't the owl. A long, severed body part lay on the ground, its surface covered in thick, overlapping ridges. The end was scorched and still burning, heat rising as it twitched faintly among the broken wood. It had crushed the surrounding trees. He froze when he saw it. It was a finger. He immediately thought of it as a golden finger. His instincts told him that if he decomposed and absorbed that high-level magic beast's finger, he could bridge several gaps in strength instantly. He might even evolve because of it. He moved closer to it. Once on top of it, he began dissolution. His body spread out, and it got to work. However, the system notified him that decomposition failed because the skill level was too low or the target's level gap was too large. It triggered inviolability, and his cells suffered backlash. He continuously lost health points. So he activated autonomy, splitting his body and propelling himself away from that part. He landed on a nearby branch and started eating it. He was annoyed at what just happened. If he had known, he would have used all his enhancement points there first. A top-tier material was right in front of him, yet he couldn't decompose it. The feeling was like a eunuch visiting a brothel. The target was also too big. His internal slime mold space couldn't hold it, so he couldn't take it even if he wanted to. He kept thinking about what to do. He considered leveling up first, maxing out decomposition, then coming back later. He felt a tremor and thought it was an earthquake. The ground beneath him started to crack. Suddenly, it opened up, making the finger and nearby trees fall in. He immediately used plasmodial barrage to escape. He landed on another tree, but it was also affected. He knew he couldn't fully get away. After swallowing several trees, the ground began to close. Fortunately, it stopped. If not, he would have fallen in since he was so close. That experience made him tear up as he admitted how scary the outside world was. The farther he went, the more insignificant he felt. He realized he couldn't be arrogant anymore. His only path now was to stay hidden, decompose, and farm. Little did he know, underground there were eggs and hidden treasures. The finger fell much deeper. It was surrounded by sharp spikes like it was inside a mouth. Then a violent impact tore through it. The slime mold's location was quite far from the owl, and it was also some distance from the golden finger. He made a temporary base there and decided to wait until tomorrow before going back to reclaim his split bodies. He used dissolution to create a hole in the tree trunk. He made the entrance smaller, then expanded the space inside. That way, slightly larger monsters wouldn't be able to get in. This marked the start of his construction. He dissolved the inside of the trunk to make more space. After clearing it out, he placed a luminous mushroom. Then he settled onto a self-made sofa. He looked comfortable in his new place. His temporary base had a well-thought-out design. It was split into two sections. The upper chamber was his main resting area, while the lower one was larger but blocked off with poisonous mushrooms, connected only by a narrow passage. He grabbed a stick and started eating. From that moment on, he was a mold with a home. It made him feel safe. But his peace didn't last long. A loud noise disturbed him. He went outside and yelled at the source. He saw a swarm of bees. Now he understood why they were called flying fighters. Then he got an idea. As the bees flew past, he struck them with rocks, smashing their bodies one by one. With that, he gained experience points. Because of what he did, all the bees turned toward him. He quickly hid inside. The bees followed him in. He let out a deep sigh. The bees that tried to sting him got stuck in his body, leading to their defeat and giving him more experience points. He turned into something like a lump of sticky insect glue. He released 2 bees. They flew back to their nest. The slime mold followed them. He found their hive. He noticed more bees gathering nearby. Suddenly, many of them appeared. They all charged at him. He welcomed them, knowing their attacks couldn't hurt him. To him, more enemies just meant more gains. Soon he was surrounded. The temperature around him rose sharply, and his cells began to undergo apoptosis. The slime mold was surprised they could do that. He counterattacked with a plasmodial barrage, wiping out many bees at once. One large bee raised a beeswax shield, and he was pushed back. He realized that the bees near the hive were much stronger than the ones outside. Then, the bees pulled out their stingers and used them like wands. A small magic circle formed to summon more of their swarm. The slime mold realized this was an evolved form, from a worker bee to a guard, and now, a bee mage. The bee looked fierce. It charged at him. Our boy then fired a plasmodial barrage and sprayed in all directions. Several bees were wiped out instantly, but there were too many in the swarm, and every attack consumed cytoplasm. His health points kept dropping. Luckily, he was firmly attached to a large tree. By shapeshifting and slipping into the trunk to decompose it, he could keep resupplying. His health points began to recover. More bees with beeswax shields appeared. He used a stone to strengthen his attack, but there was only one stone left in his space. He kept striking the shield. Some bees tried to sneak behind him. He found it funny that they delivered themselves right to him. They got stuck in his body. He acted like he had no choice but to accept them. He gained 4 bee spears and 1 bee stinger. Now, his space was almost full. He threw a stinger coated in slime, and it pierced through the bee's shield and hit directly. The bee mage finally made its move. It formed another magic circle. The slime mold noticed the others starting to retreat now that they understood how strong he was. The bee mage continued to wave its wand. The bee mage created a golden orb. The slime mold thought it was honey and wanted to taste it, but it was a spark ember, a basic form of magic. The bee mage moved its wand, directing the ember toward the slime mold. He was caught off guard. He lost 70 health points. More fireballs followed. This was a strong counter against him, especially with the splash effect. Now that he understood he couldn't win, he decided to run. He scurried away as explosions went off behind him. He fired back with a plasmodial barrage. The bees saw it coming, and a bee warrior stepped in front to shield the mage. The bee mage kept launching fireballs while staying protected. Our MC then noticed it could even buff itself, which felt completely unfair. He ran faster, starting to panic. The bee mage summoned another swarm. This time, it called self-destruct bees. They rushed straight at him. When one hit the tree trunk, it burned a hole through it. Then came a chain of explosions. The slime mold was blasted away. He landed on a branch. The bee mage kept watching him. He tried to stabilize himself, but the branch snapped. He began to fall as the bees closed in around him. Meanwhile, the bee mage prepared a larger fireball. When it was ready, it launched it toward him. Now, aside from being surrounded by self-destructing bees, a massive fireball was also chasing him. It felt like the sun itself was falling on him. The explosion was so huge that it even caught the attention of those near the lake. Smoke covered the area. Trees were burned. The bee mage ordered the bee warriors to stay on guard. Suddenly, it sensed something. The slime mold launched a sneak attack on the nest. The bees rushed toward him, but he told them they were too late. Most of their forces were outside, and the few left couldn't stop him. From the very beginning, while burrowing into the tree trunk to decompose and recover, he had also been quietly extending his body, creating a hidden passage to the nest. Then, when he was forced behind the trunk, he used most of his health to create a split body to distract them. As expected, they focused all their attacks on the split body, giving him the chance to slip through the passage into the nest. He dove inside and spread his body like branches to search. It covered a wide area. The first chamber he checked was wrong. The next one was also a dead end. He got excited when he found where they stored honey, but it wasn't what he needed. He decided to come back for it later. He moved deeper through the trunk and finally found what he was looking for. It was the queen bee. The bees rushed toward him. They were furious and terrified. Our MC grabbed the queen as a hostage. The queen struggled in anger but couldn't do anything under his grip. The bee mage let out a loud buzz, giving commands to the others. The bee warriors raised their shields. The slime mold realized there was no room for negotiation. Without hesitation, he smashed the queen's head with a rock. The bees fell into despair. They lost their strength and dropped. The queen bee was like the core of the swarm. Once she died, the entire colony collapsed and broke apart. At first, he thought about negotiating, but it seemed that low-level monsters only followed instinct. He gained several levels, reaching level 17. The system notified him that his experience points had reached the level-up requirement. Decomposing bee waste within 24 hours would no longer grant experience points. Health points exceeding the maximum would be cleared after an hour. The slime mold had now reached level 21. His achievement was Weak Creature, and his trait was Decomposer. His health points were at 918 out of 802. He had 0.3 remaining skill enhancement points. His decomposition was level 7. Pulsation was maxed. Poison resistance was level 7. Cytoplasm spray was level 6, and Central Command was level 2. Decomposition didn't just boost his poison resistance. He also gained a new skill called Central Command. However, when he tried adding a skill point to it, nothing happened. He wondered if it was because he didn't have any subordinates to control. The system informed him that Decomposition level 7 was a racial skill, meaning it could only be increased through proficiency. He originally planned to max it out for scavenging, but he didn't expect that racial skills couldn't be upgraded with points. Instead, he would have to focus on maxing pulsation first. Fortunately, the rewards this time were plentiful. As his health points increased, the internal slime mold space expanded as well, and the honey was also a valuable resource. If he absorbed the honey, each one would grant him 400 health points. Aside from that, he still had a few stones stored inside. He looked at the bee corpses scattered on the ground. He felt confused. Even without a heart, he still had mixed emotions. Ever since he turned the tables on that snail, he had stepped onto the path of a predator. He started with bugs, then spiders, then even crabs. Now, looking at the bees, his mind drifted. He imagined a young crab waiting for his father to come home early and play with him. But that child would soon learn the truth. The father called the mother, saying he had to entertain clients and couldn't come home to play. The mother told their child to understand, saying his father was working hard for the family. It was almost midnight. The mother crab started to worry. It was late, and there was still no call. She wondered if he had passed out drunk on the way home. She decided to go out with her son to look for him. The child happily sang as they searched. His mother told him to keep his voice down so they wouldn't disturb the neighbors. Then they saw a staggering crab in the distance. The child thought it was his father. He called out again and again, but there was no response. He shouted that his father was going the wrong way. The mother assumed he was just too drunk and told her son to go help him, so the young crab ran toward his father. But when he got close, he saw the truth. His father was being eaten by a slime mold. It was gruesome. The child let out a scream. The slime mold was terrified that he had become the villain. It was just a dream. When he woke up, he realized it was already night. He figured he had been overthinking. His mind was still human, so he felt guilt. But now that he was in another world as a slime mold, he had no control over that. If he wasn't the hunter, then he would be the prey. The weak were food for the strong. It was survival of the fittest, the law of nature. If he wanted to survive in this world, hunting and decomposition were his only options. Material conditions shape everything. First, he needed to solve survival. He decided to go reclaim the split body he had left earlier. He wondered what it might have gathered. He started moving. Unexpectedly, he saw a faint glow in the forest. It was a campfire. He froze. Then curiosity took over, and he moved closer to check. Around the fire, a man lay on a blanket reading a book. He asked a woman named Nia if she wasn't scared of getting poked while leaning on that spiky pig. The slime mold couldn't believe it. They were actually humans. She said she wasn't scared. When relaxed, Little Steelback's bristles became soft. She thanked the beast for its hard work and said they would rely on it again tomorrow. Nia Ross was from the 100 Style Guild, a C-rank adventurer. Another man, Rake Carter, also known as Captain Hawk from the same guild and a B-rank adventurer, said they originally planned to search for the guild master, but instead, they got lost. As captain, he took responsibility and apologized. The man reading the book was Cole Fern, also from the 100 Style Guild and a B rank. He said magical communication was cut off, there were no signs of high-level magic beasts, and even the forest had turned into a maze. No one could have predicted so many strange things happening, so there was no need to blame himself. He added that although they hadn't found the guild master yet, there was no need to worry too much. After all, their guild master ranked among the top 3 leaders of the 8 great guilds. Once they found their way out tomorrow, they would report everything to the church. The guild master's strength was beyond doubt, but it had been 2 years since anyone had contact with him. Rumors said the guild had fallen under suspicion from the church. Coincidentally, the guild master had only come here after accepting a mission personally assigned by the Pope. The guild master of the 100 Style Guild was Gon. 10 years ago, he founded the guild. Unlike others with strict entry rules, his guild accepted anyone, no matter race, profession, or level. The only requirement was to follow their principles: no deception, no abuse, and no evil. The resources Gon gained from hunting monsters were shared fairly among all members, helping everyone grow. Because of this, the 100 Style Guild became known for its generosity and unity, quickly rising to become one of the 8 great guilds. Also, as the 100 Style Guild grew faster and faster, rumors spread that it had drawn the church's suspicion. 2 years ago, Gon told them he was heading to the swamp forest for a mission, but since then, there had been no news. Without the guildmaster's protection over those 2 years, members were poached or scattered. The once glorious 100 Style Guild had become unstable. Gon had recognized Rake's talent, which was why he formed this squad to search for him. In the end, only the 2 of them answered his call, so he was grateful. Nia shared that if Gon hadn't founded the 100 Style Guild, someone with a niche profession like hers would never have become an adventurer. But Cole believed that someone like her, who could control intermediate magic beasts, would be fought over by many guilds. If something had happened to Gon, she wouldn't need to worry about finding a new home. That annoyed her, so she told him to just go to sleep. He playfully apologized and told her to pretend he hadn't said anything. Meanwhile, the slime mold was eavesdropping on them. He couldn't hear everything clearly, but he knew that gathering information about the human world was important. He tried extending part of his body to act as a receiver. His body slowly crept forward. Cole immediately sensed a monster. Without warning, he fired an ice spike that pierced the extended part of the slime mold. The system alerted him that the frost effect was highly effective. His speed dropped by 90%. Our MC panicked. The other 2 jumped to their feet, but Cole remained lying down. He said he had already dealt with it. They looked over, curious. Little Steelback watched closely. Then it suddenly bit down. It dragged the slime mold out. He panicked. It all happened too fast. He knew he was doomed. At the last moment, Little Steelback stopped when Nia gave the order. She scolded them for attacking without thinking. To her, it was just a small passing monster, not a threat, so she told the beast to let it go. It spat the slime mold out. She caught him in her hands. She felt like she had seen him somewhere before. Then she asked if he wanted to form a contract with her. At that moment, she looked like an angel to him. He was happy. For the first time in this world, he felt like he could have a connection, so he nodded yes. But Rake told her to stop messing around. They still needed to find a way out tomorrow. This wasn't the time to collect monsters. He also said she shouldn't waste mana on a low-level creature like a slime. The slime mold tried to correct him. He wasn't a slime. He was a slime mold. Nia had no choice but to let him go, though she looked disappointed. The slime mold realized they couldn't hear him speak. He quickly thought of a way to communicate. He stretched part of his body. It looked like tentacles. The adventurers became curious, but also cautious. He tried to spell out yes to show he was intelligent, but Rake thought he was just secreting waste. He even found it interesting since it was a rare sight. Nia, on the other hand, didn't know how to react. The slime mold was horrified when he realized something. These people didn't speak his language. He slowly backed away, feeling defeated. He gave up trying to communicate. If he pushed it further, they might see him as a strange monster and kill him. Still, at least he confirmed one thing. There were humans in this world. There was just a language barrier. The slime mold crossed the swamp and returned to where he had been before. This time, he hoped he wouldn't run into the owl again. Suddenly, the nucleus command activated. It started giving off a steady beeping signal. With it, his perception sharpened, and he immediately located his body. He could see it clearly. He sensed the position of his split body, finally understanding the effect of nucleus command. He didn't waste a second and moved right away. As he got closer, the signal grew stronger. He was impressed by what he saw. His split body had grown massive. He wondered how much it had decomposed. He used reclamation, and it worked. He gained a huge amount of experience points, and his health points exceeded the maximum again. He moved on, and reclaimed another one. It succeeded, giving him more experience and pushing his health past the limit again. His poison resistance also rose to level 8. He kept reclaiming, reaching level 22. He moved to the next location, but the signal grew weak. He looked around, searching for his experience pack. He found it among some mushrooms, but a snail was eating it. He attacked instantly and blew its head off. His body trembled. He felt bad for his poor little piece. Luckily, Dad was here to pick it up. He moved toward it, but suddenly a tongue shot out from the mushroom pile and grabbed the split body. It was eaten by a frog. He snapped. Anger hit him hard. He felt despair as his baby was devoured. He swore the frog would pay. He fired a plasmodial barrage. The frog noticed him, but it was too late. The attack hit its face. He wanted it to choke on it. Problem solved, or so he thought. For a moment, he even felt like he could go challenge that snake-tailed bird. But then, our MC realized something was wrong. The frog caught the rock with its tongue, and then it jumped away. It slipped back into the water. But the slime mold wasn't about to let it escape. He waited, and the moment the frog peeked out, he blasted it with slime-coated rocks. The frog instantly dove back underwater. The rocks sank into the pond. He grew annoyed. If it stayed underwater, he couldn't do anything. Suddenly, it leaped out again. He realized something. Frogs were amphibians. They had to come up for air. This time, he would make sure it died. The frog launched itself with full force. The skill was called power release. It tried to swallow him whole, but at the last second, he dodged. The frog slammed into a rock instead. While it was still mid-air, he countered with a plasmodial barrage. The attack struck its head. Then he extended part of his body and latched onto a branch like Spider-Man. He landed safely on the trunk. He noticed the frog wasn't retreating. Instead, it was trying to lure him toward the pond, where it had the advantage. After the hive battle, he had gotten a bit cocky. Now he realized something. Out here, you never really knew who was the hunter and who was the prey. He reminded himself to stay humble. The frog had lost its right eye from the attack. It became furious. It leaped toward him as he dangled from the branch. He had already used up all his stones. He followed his instinct and attacked first, but to his surprise, the frog ate what he fired. That caught him off guard. The frog climbed up the tree and shot out its tongue. It latched onto him. He was pulled toward it, but he held tightly onto the branch. Unfortunately, the branch snapped. He panicked. He was about to be eaten. In a desperate attempt to escape, he twisted the part of his body gripping the branch and stabbed straight into the frog's mouth. The frog dropped. It bled heavily as it fell back into the water. That was too close. The corpse slowly sank and eventually disappeared. He felt a bit disappointed. It fell into the water, so he couldn't decompose it. The surface showed a few bubbles. Then suddenly, an attack shot toward him. Half of his body was instantly destroyed. The force was overwhelming. It even snapped the trees behind him in half. The frog emerged again and swallowed him. Its appearance had changed. The attack it used was called Sanctified Fall. Slime Mold's expression was basically, "What the hell?" The creature threw its head back, mouth wide open. Its eyes bulged as its body jerked violently. It unleashed red liquid from its eyes and tried to hit Slime Mold. Slime Mold extended part of his body so he could reach the branch and transfer there. He dangled and jumped from one branch to another. He stated that a wise mold doesn't fight when the odds are against him. He was surprised when he learned that the frog monster had a third form. If that was the case, he wondered why the one eaten by the snake crane earlier didn't transform or struggle at all. He knew it wasn't a difference in skill between individuals. He wondered how a low-ranking monster deserved such an insane form. He thought it was weird, but he decided to focus on retreating first. He was spooked when it got close to him. Apparently, the frog also used its tongue to dangle and move around like him. The nerves in its eyes bulged. It activated Sanguine Lash. A red tentacle shot out from its eyes, slashed the tentacle part of Slime Mold's body, and scraped across him. Instantly, he lost 199 health points. The system alerted him that a foreign object had invaded his cells. Decomposition started. He was shocked to learn that the blood was toxic, and even poison resistance couldn't stop it. The frog attacked with a tongue lash, it got stuck to him, and he got smashed to the floor. But he didn't panic since physical attacks don't do damage to him. Unexpectedly, he fell into the water. The frog lunged forward with its mouth wide open, ready to swallow slime mold. It clamped down on the slime mold. It was peaceful for a second until the frog suddenly realized slime mold was creeping out of its mouth. Slime mold slowly made his way out of the mouth. He was constantly losing health points from the acid inside its mouth. Before he got digested, he needed to eject his main body, but just prying its mouth open used up all his strength. He couldn't split. The frog shoved him back inside its mouth. He had no choice left. He gambled, and a part of his body dropped into the water. The water entered his body. The frog started choking. His plan was to stuff it to death. But the frog struggled and still forced him deeper into its mouth. Slime mold was forced to consume all the honey and gained 400 health points continuously. Slime mold resisted by absorbing more water and making himself bigger. Eventually, the frog exploded, and slime mold was free. The system notified him that he defeated the trash and earned experience points. Decomposition of the foreign object was successful, and he now obtained an antibody. He was dumbfounded, though. He had become huge. He obtained osmotic pressure. Regulation at max. His health points were at 11,870 over 924. The excess health points would be cleared in an hour. The water kept flowing in. Because his body size increased, he had enough cell fluid to regulate the changes in osmotic pressure. It was such an unexpected gain, but he didn't like that his 10,000 plus health points were going to disappear soon. It was an achievement he got after emptying his inventory, so he decided to make the most of it. With his current body size, he imagined himself like a Godzilla. He thought of a great idea, which was the game called Rolling Sticky Ball. Slime mold's decomposition was successful. He earned experience points. He moved around like that, so he kept gaining more experience points. He continued to explore the pond. Fish were running away, but they easily got stuck in his body. Even though he adapted to the osmotic pressure, the resistance while moving in water was still too much. Those fish monsters were agile, so he relied on his size advantage to catch them. But it wasn't worth it at all. So he decided to go back to shore. He moved slowly, but he eventually reached the shore. A lot of things were stuck on him like rocks. There were also leaves and other materials. He safely managed to reach the shore. Some otters that were about to eat the fish noticed him. He said hello to them. When they saw him, they were scared to death. He towered over them with all kinds of things and even living creatures stuck on his body. He covered them with his body. But he only took the fish and left the otters unharmed. Those two were left dumbfounded. Since there were already so many resources, he chose not to kill indiscriminately. He let the cute monsters go for now. He wanted to keep the last proof that he still had a human soul. He saw a squirrel on his way. The tips of its ears were glowing red. It dropped its acorn and went into combat mode. Its eyebrows and tail burst into flames. It attacked first using fireballs. Slime mold was in awe seeing fire magic, and quickly realized it was super effective against him. He continuously lost 60 health points. He warned the little cutie that since it started trouble first, it shouldn't blame him. He engulfed it while lecturing it that playing with fire is prohibited in the forest. He decomposed it and left its bones. The system notified him of the experience points he earned. Meanwhile, somewhere in the forest, beasts were locked in a fight. A large lizard beast was struck by something that looked like a tree. It stood tall and twisted, like a living tree made of pale flesh. Long, branch-like limbs extended from its body, bending at sharp angles, while a glowing core pulsed inside its split trunk. The lizard cried out as it took a huge hit to the head. It counterattacked with a water ball, which was actually acid spit. A portion of the tree melted. It ejected a slime-like creature, and it dove into another trunk and merged with it. The lizard was getting annoyed. It used Wild Rush and charged at it. The tree extended its vines to strike the lizard and stop it from getting closer, but the lizard dodged them well, until a vine suddenly shot up from the ground. The lizard's foot was restrained, and a vine pierced through it. The vine inside the lizard's body slowly produced flowers, and those flowers bloomed. The lizard sensed something was wrong, until eventually its eyeballs were covered in small boils, and then those boils exploded. It was in so much pain that it started moving wildly and slashed the vines restraining it. The tree didn't expect it to jump so high and land on its back. Its eyes were still bleeding non-stop. After that, it immediately stood up. Using its tongue, it activated thermal vision, so it could still sense everything around it. It pushed forward and rolled its body, causing some of the tree's branches to snap. After that, it created some distance. Then it released a water jet, which was laced with poison. The core of the tree started to disintegrate. Then the lizard let out a loud roar. Its body trembled and its veins bulged. Then it transformed. It sensed something big. That was slime mold. Concurrently, the system detected a foreign object and activated the antibody. Decomposition was successful, and he gained experience points. After receiving another notification like this, he became curious about what that foreign object was. He decided not to pay much attention since he already had antibodies. He hurried and swallowed more since there wasn't much time left. He kept rolling, but he sensed something wasn't right. Logically speaking, the area he had slimed over should have been dozens, if not 100 acres. He wondered why the forest was so dense. He considered that the earth itself might be moving. He saw a silhouette of an explosion, but it disappeared instantly. He thought he was just imagining things because there was no sound at all. The system notified him that the time was up. It cleared the excess health points. He was back to his original form. Slime Mold was now at level 49. His trait was Decomposer, and he achieved Weak Creature Lord. His health points were at 2,891 over 2,891. He had 16.8 remaining skill enhancement points. His decomposition was at level 7. Pulsation was maxed. Poison resistance was at level 7. Cytoplasm spray was at level 6. And central command was at level 2. He was impressed that after all that chaos, he reached level 49. The system notified him that nutritional overload was complete, and the next activation requirement was increased by 5 times. No experience points would be gained from decomposing anything within 1 hour. His space was full, so he needed to clear it. He wondered what Weak Creature Lord meant. To him, it sounded like being the boss of a kindergarten. He decided to clear out the slime mold space first. Even though it expanded, there was too much junk, and it was making him sick. His body swelled and tightened, the slime bunching into thick folds. The single eye bulged and shook as everything inside pushed upward, moments away from being expelled. He vomited out all the junk, like bones. He felt relieved once it was done. Now that he dumped everything out, he felt lighter, but since he wouldn't gain experience points for the next hour, he had no idea what to do. Suddenly, the system notified him that when he reached level 60, he could choose between class change or evolution. Just as he expected, it was the path for monsters in this world to grow stronger. He imagined slime mold magic, like mimicry. That kind of change would make both class change and evolution bring a real transformation, like animals gaining intelligence. And with that form, he could learn magic and dominate the entire world. Suddenly he heard the sound of wings flapping. Something flew past him. There were 3 bee mages. He was surprised to see all 3 together. He decided to follow them. He caught up quickly. There were large lumps connected all around the trees. He was impressed to see that the nests were linked together in patches on a massive scale. He wondered if this was the evolved version of a swarm as a collective. The bees were busy with their own roles. Until a 2-legged beast stepped on one of the nests, splitting it in half. It was a huge bird, and it started eating the eggs in the nests. Slime Mold remembered that bird. He had encountered it before, but its color was slightly different now. He still remembered how terrified he was back then, so scared that he almost lost the will to survive. Fortunately, it didn't take interest in him at the time. The bees surrounded it. They attacked, but it was ineffective. They tried targeting the snake-tail part of its body, but that was also ineffective. They covered every inch of its body, and the bird simply shook them off. The bee mages created several fireballs and rained them down on the beast. It caused a massive explosion. Slime Mold felt slightly nervous. Fortunately, he managed to hide behind a rock. The destructive power was far greater than the nest he attacked before. Their abilities had clearly gone through a qualitative leap, not just a quantitative one. The bird absorbed the fire. Its belly swelled up, and the flames were extinguished. The bee mages didn't expect that. Now they trembled in fear. The bird went on a rampage, chasing and striking the bees while destroying the nest in the process. Its snake tail turned red. It had thermal vision. It pinpointed the location of the queen bee, and without hesitation, it devoured it. It chewed the queen bee in half along with the eggs. Slime Mold noticed that its body only turned red after absorbing flames. He also realized that killing the queen bee wiped out the entire swarm. Clearly, it wasn't a low IQ creature. With so many corpses around, he quietly collected some while staying hidden, storing them to decompose after an hour. The bird was suddenly startled when its tail froze over. Someone had used a freeze skill. It was the adventurers. They followed the magical reaction from the explosion and discovered this scene. But it was only an intermediate magic beast. Nia recognized it as a snake heron. Rake warned them not to let their guard down, because it already seemed to be at lord level. Slime Mold saw the humans from before. It looked like they were planning to hunt the strange bird. The ice on the tail slowly melted. Eventually, the snake was able to move. The bird got annoyed at the adventurers. Rake told Cole to finish it with high-tier ice magic. He would buy him time to chant. Cole thanked him for the help. He promised to drop it in one move. The bird slashed with its talons. Rake blocked it with his shield. But it wasn't easy. His legs trembled from the force. He realized the thing was strong. After the high-level monsters disappeared, it must have feasted and evolved. He used a shield counter and shoved it away, but it threw rocks at him, followed by an attack from the snake. Nia told Little Steelback to use Tackle. It slammed hard into the bird, which made the snake miss its target. That was a close call for Rake. The snake charged again, even more aggressive, while the bird looked like it was about to throw up. It vomited fire. The flames were massive. The bird used a high-tier spell called Pseudo-Dragon Breath. They had to defend, so Cole made his move. He cast a high-tier spell, Glacial Barrier, and blocked the fire. But the waves of flames kept coming until it caused a massive explosion. Slime Mold felt both scared and amazed at the same time watching that level of magic. He knew that if he were a bit bigger, he'd already be cannon fodder. The ice barrier held. Cole gave everything he had. His veins were already bulging. By the time it shattered, the fire was almost gone. But the aftermath was bad. Slime Mold was impressed by how strong it was. It made him regret not knowing magic. Cole felt frustrated because his chant was wasted. Now, he couldn't use high-tier magic for a while. Rake told Nia to have Little Steelback cover him. The pig unleashed the spines on its back. The bird covered its head. Rake unleashed his power and shot up into the sky. The bird peeked and got confused. Rake came down with his meteor hammer. He slammed it into the bird's head. The impact shattered the ground. The snake hissed loudly in pain. The bird's head was left bloodied. That settled it. It was defeated. The snake heron already had the strength of a high-level magic beast, but as expected, the captain was reliable. It made Slime Mold realize that human combat thinking combined with teamwork was better than raw strength, letting them defeat stronger enemies. He decided to find a way to cling to that human's thigh as soon as possible. Rake turned his back on the enemy and told Nia to try reading the corpse's memories and check for clues about their guildmaster. Unexpectedly, the snake rose and bit Rake on the shoulder. Then, the bloodied snake slowly regained consciousness. Cole used an ice spike on the snake. The snake part of the snake heron had petrifying venom. He told Nia to quickly give the captain a purification potion. Nia did as told. Rake chugged the bottle, but he choked. His throat had already turned to stone, so he couldn't swallow it. He dropped the potion and was completely turned to stone. Cole told her there was no time to grieve. She had to run. She hesitated. Eventually, she rode the pig and they started running. The snake heron absorbed the captain's life energy, so it would fully recover soon. They retreated at once. The bird saw them, and it was clearly out for revenge. Cole drank a potion. He admitted they had miscalculated the snake heron. It already had the power of a high-level monster lord, but as long as they could escape within a week and ask the church to send a royal priest, they could still save the captain. Suddenly, it appeared right in their path. He didn't expect it to recover so fast. He took command of the fight. The bird charged at him. Nia was terrified. She asked what they should do now. He told her not to be afraid. He already had a plan. He told her to save her magic power so they could get her out of this lousy place later. He used an intermediate spell, Ice Gatling. It struck the bird's leg, and most of its body. The bird's neck swelled up. Cole could tell it was about to cast a high-tier spell again. He told Nia to ignore everything and just run. She asked what he was planning. They had no choice. If he didn't pin it down, neither of them would escape. He thanked her for the magic potion. As the fireball rushed toward them, ice started creeping over his body. He cast a high-tier spell and sealed himself inside a glacial barrier. Nia showed a look of despair. While the ice wall blocked the fire, she forced herself to run. She was determined to escape and report the strange forest to the church. An owl suddenly flew above her. She heard it cry, "Miwu," and was surprised to see it. The magic connection had been cut earlier, so she thought it was gone. With its vision, finding the exit should have been easier. But suddenly, it turned in a different direction. It landed on a branch and activated Sanctified Fall. Its body began to glow. It locked its eyes on her. She turned pale when she saw it. At the same time, inside a sealed place, corpses of different beasts were scattered everywhere, and Gon sat at the center. The system warned him that his status had reached its time limit. Fatigue and other negative effects would no longer be hidden. Also, his mana loan had reached its limit. It began draining his stamina to repay the debt until it was fully restored. He understood that. Especially after seeing the mountain of corpses in front of him. The corpses clumped together and spoke to him. It said it could see him panting. In 2 years, he killed all the high-level magic beasts in the swamp forest until none were left. That monster had died by his hands countless times. It asked if he had finally used up all his assets. The one speaking to him was the king of the swamp forest, Yahello. It told him to speak instead of muttering to himself. It asked if he was looking at what they called the system. It knew Gon relied on that system to raise his guild into one of the 8 great guilds in such a short time. Then it spoke about the secret inside its body. They had gathered similar knowledge from other universes and called it a transmigrator. They gave everything, holding nothing back, just to kill him. They lured him into a trap, but didn't expect him to grow this strong while still hiding many trump cards. It decided to give him one last chance. After destroying everything he had, it would turn him into a corpse puppet. He could also choose to join them or work with them for their grand plan of dimensional ascension. He simply said he would think about it. Right after that, he said he was done thinking and grabbed his weapon and slashed that scum. His answer was simple: kill it. But Yahello told him that no matter how many times it happened, it was useless. Inside the eternal barrier, it was immortal and could not die. It transformed its body. It created a form made of several heads. It told him that no matter how strong he was still just mortal flesh. Seeing him pant only proved he was reaching his limit. Since he refused to cooperate, it would kill him instead. Gon took something from his inventory. It was a container filled with golden liquid. He shattered it and let the liquid spill around. This was called true holy water. Yahello asked what it was. The liquid spread, and its presence disturbed it. Then it began to rain true holy water. This liquid could burn the soul. Even if it couldn't gain physical immortality, it meant nothing against this. It was a shame he had to use it. He had been saving it for the mastermind behind everything. Yahello cursed him. It demanded to know where he found such holy water. It kept cursing until its body finally faded away. The true holy water spread. Suddenly the system warned him that a high-energy reaction was detected, and the target was about to regenerate. A blinding pillar of golden light erupted upward, tearing through the ground as debris flew everywhere. The energy spiraled wildly, overwhelming everything around it. Chunks of the creature were blown apart and sent flying through the air, streaked with light. Below, Gon stood in the middle of the destruction, weapon in hand, as the remains scattered around him. He confirmed that the final move was Sanctified Fall. But true holy water burns at the soul level. If the soul is gone, even Sanctified Fall cannot restore it. Yahello entered Sanctified Fall mode, its massive body unfolding in midair. A bright golden core glowed at its center, while thick, tentacle-like limbs spread outward, radiating power. It laughed, enjoying how Gon almost killed it. It knew Gon didn't expect his trump card to fail. Gon realized it had gained the power of adaptation. He asked how it obtained it so quickly. Yahello thanked him for that. It asked if he remembered the Dragon Emperor's finger he had cut off earlier with a single strike. It thought about how powerful his spear art was to cut even the Dragon Emperor's skin. After he cut it off, the finger disappeared, and it couldn't sense it anywhere in the swamp forest. It wanted to know how he did that. Fortunately, it seemed that some weak monsters who didn't know better had touched it. That triggered the Dragon Emperor's inviolability trait, allowing it to sense the corpse again and reclaim it. It used a technique called corpse reclamation. After reclaiming it, everything made sense. Gon had sent the Dragon Emperor's finger far away so it couldn't detect it. The reason was simple. He had coated it with true holy water. If he had used that amount on it earlier, its soul would have been destroyed for sure. But because Gon hid it, it had time to adapt to the remaining holy water on the Dragon Emperor's finger. That's how it gained the power of adaptation. Now that all of Gon's cards were exposed, it was ready to kill him. A massive stone hand burst out of the ground, fingers spread wide as chunks of rock broke off and fell. It tried to crush Gon. The ground cracked violently, splitting into sharp, jagged slabs. Cracks spread outward as the earth collapsed. Several more giant stone hands pushed out from the shattered ground, fingers stretched wide. Rocks broke apart and rained down as they forced their way up. Then, a sudden, violent impact struck. Everything blurred as force slammed down again and again. The ground caved in, forming a deep pit. Kadoyalawa called this technique earth burial. Deep underground, Gon used 20 layers of elemental runestone effects along with the skill earth attribute absorption. He forced his way out. He charged forward using his spear art, piercing all things. Kadoyalawa knew that no matter how strong the weapon was, its durability would eventually run out. It asked Gon how long he planned to keep struggling. It countered with abyss magic, necrotic shriek. Gon glowed bright blue as energy gathered around him. He held his ground, charging power while a red force surged around him. He received a warning that his weapon's durability was about to reach its limit. He was told to repair it as soon as possible. His magic resistance had also dropped below 20%. His body had entered a fatigued state, and he was advised to rest immediately. Even as blood dripped from his mouth, he pushed forward and used the technique 1-inch punch spiral force. He was warned that using high-tier martial arts in his current state would cause irreversible damage to his body. But he didn't care. His weapon broke. Kadoyalawa saw it and was pleased. Gon was overwhelmed. He crashed into the ground. His left arm bled heavily. It was completely ruined. Kadoyalawa called him a fool. It said he should just die quietly instead of suffering like this. It couldn't believe he was still thinking of a way to turn things around. Gon regretted saving his skills earlier. He admitted Kadoyalawa was right. He should have used all the true holy water from the start. The Dragon Emperor's finger appeared. Kadoyalawa said its farewell. It told him that no matter what system he had, he could never win, because he was facing the entire Holy Sea. The giant dragon talon descended toward him, but Gon looked determined. At the last moment, he pulled something from his inventory. It was a scroll. It was the Demon King's favor. Kadoyalawa was surprised to see a demon contract. It called Gon a hypocrite for opposing their plan while secretly making a deal with the demon long ago. It begged the Pope to save it. Huge hands began to descend, ready to crush it. That technique was called Oblivion's Grasp. After that, it was reduced to ashes. Then, the demon stepped out from the void. It greeted Gon, saying it had been a long time. It mocked Gon's pathetic state. He looked just like him back when he failed to descend into that universe for the first time. It laughed loudly, saying it brought back memories. It said it would never forget Gon's kindness. As a reward, it offered him its power. With it, he could become strong enough to wipe out those evil scoundrels. It asked the transmigrator what he thought. Gon tore the contract apart and told him they were even. The demon got annoyed that he didn't fall for it. It gave him one piece of advice. It said it had seen his face at the moment of death. After that, the demon was pulled back into another universe. Then it was gone. Gon's health was at 2,189 out of 2,865,981, and he had no mana left. Since the target was erased, he gained no experience. The field seal was lifted. The system warned him that the mana loan was still draining his health to repay the debt. He was told to recover immediately. Gon sat down. He didn't look good at all. He wondered if the summoning of the Hope of Coordinate had worked. He wanted to connect to the system for communication. He was told the connection failed. Transmigrator systems were not linked. Meanwhile, Slime Mold received a notice that decomposition had failed. The target was not organic matter. He had been trying to eat Rake. He needed to confirm that the man had really turned to stone. He jumped down from the body and decided to take the equipment. Then he dashed away. He thought that if he helped the humans when they were in danger, he might be able to hitch a ride back to their town. He stopped when he saw the ice wall. He knew the mage made it, so he expected them to be nearby. He assumed they had already killed that ostrich. He planned to grab some loot while he was at it. But for safety, he decided to observe first. He used search. He was shocked by what he saw. A roasted human body lay in front of the bird. The snake wrapped around the body and grabbed it, then dumped it straight into the bird's mouth. Suddenly, the bird whipped its head. Slime Mold ran right away. He didn't expect another one to be down. The bird was getting stronger. He thought the girl might already be dead too. At the same time, the owl turned savage. It charged at Naya using a dive attack. She realized it was no longer their companion. Little Steelback used Spiny Back. If it dove straight in, it would get pierced. so it stopped, and used Iron Beak Gale instead. It had multiple heads, and its movement created wind blades that sliced through the trees around them. A wide part of the forest was affected. Tree trunks kept falling one after another. Nia could only brace herself. At that moment, Slime Mold passed by. Nia begged for someone, anyone, to save her. She wondered how Miwu ended up like that. She saw little Steelback buried under the fallen trunks. She told it not to be afraid. She would transfer mana so it could recover right away. Miwu let out a loud cry. Its heads merged into one. Its neck stretched long and lunged straight at her. She instinctively used mind control. Miwu stopped. Then Nia was pulled into another dimension. She felt relieved that the pet contract hadn't broken. She had entered her spiritual world. She saw an angel inside. Miwu was being carried by it. She wondered why a noble angel would exist inside little Miwu's spiritual world. The angel called her to come closer, but its face twisted. It revealed a terrifying red monster. She screamed and begged for someone to save her. Meanwhile, little Steelback cried out loudly to get Miwu's attention, because it was about to eat Nia. Suddenly it was struck. Slime Mold swung the hammer, again and again. Miwu took several hits across its body. Nia noticed Rake's weapon. Slime Mold used Pulsation Max, his level 49 experience, and gigantification control to wield the axe. His control over his cytoplasm had reached perfection. It was like using a flexible hand. His attack was known as the Slime Mold Meteor Hammer. If stones were bullets, then this weapon was a cannon. He shattered the trunk, pinning little Steelback. But he lost control for a moment, and the axe hit him by accident. Nia thanked him for saving them. She picked up the Slime Mold. It felt familiar to her. Slime Mold hoped she would recognize him, but she thought he was the captain, using the little monster's body to save her. And then, they were interrupted when little Steelback warned them. Miwu stood up. Even with its injuries, it looked crazed and ready to devour her. She asked little Steelback if it could still fight. She began transferring mana into it. While Slime Mold used Search, his body spread around Miwu, and he activated Pulsation Max. One part of his body provoked Miwu, so it ate it. While it was distracted, he struck its groin with the axe. The pain was so intense that it couldn't even make a sound. When it recovered, it rushed straight at him. But little Steelback tackled it. It was perfectly suspended in midair. So Slime Mold swung the hammer. He spun it through the air and unleashed his attack, Plasmatic Cannon. It blew Miwu's body apart. The force was so strong that the hammer got stuck in a tree trunk. He realized he had used too much power. Nia looked at Miwu's body with a sad expression. Then she remembered. Slime Mold was the monster she met at the campfire earlier, and he was also the one she saw through Miwu's vision. She thought he had been following her. So she asked if he had a special attachment to her. If that was true, their compatibility would be very high. Slime Mold felt glad. The moment he had been waiting for had finally come. She asked if he would form a pet pact with her. She promised to raise him well. The system warned Slime Mold that once he signed a servant contract with a human, he would permanently lose access to the system. He realized he had to choose, keep the system, or gain a master. Slime Mold admitted that the system was good, but it couldn't compare to the fiery heroines from classic hot-blooded comics. He imagined them running at sunset as part of their training. They would face constant challenges like battles in Pokemon. In the end, they would win and make Petmaster the hottest profession. Of course, Slime Mold would evolve into a handsome man, and together they would defeat the great Demon King, get married, and live happily ever after. Slime Mold got completely lost in his fantasy. Since system stories were already cliché, it felt natural to choose a beautiful girl as his master. He had already planned the next 100 episodes in his head, so he made his decision. He was about to say, "I do," but suddenly Nia's head fell off. Slime Mold froze. Little Steelback became furious. The attack came from the battered bird. It used Circle of Wind's demise, sending wind blades slicing through everything around it, the trees and Nia's head alike. One of its heads grew a large claw, and the other head began to regenerate. A grotesque, fleshy head hung upside down from a long, stretched neck. Its skin was swollen and lumpy, one eye bulging while a twisted grin revealed a row of teeth. Little Steelback didn't hesitate and charged at it. Slime Mold couldn't believe the head he smashed was growing back. He shouted at the pig not to rush in, but it kept charging. Just as it got close, the bird pointed a finger at it and used Atavistic Ray. The pig turned into something strange. It looked like a small lizard with a long body and short limbs. Its skin had faint scales, and its face looked round with wide, shocked eyes and a blunt snout. It scrambled away. Slime Mold felt a chill. It had devolved. He couldn't believe that kind of magic existed. Then he realized that wasn't the owl anymore. The creature suddenly spoke, saying this was too troublesome. There were so many resources, yet Kadoya Lawa still failed to handle such a small matter. The bird's head shifted and formed into a human face. It was Merlin, the guild master of the Blue Hat Guild, a member of the church and one of the 7 holy knights. He complained that the old man from the Holy See should have listened to him from the start, so he wouldn't have to clean up this mess. He sensed that the imprisonment barrier was gone, but he had no intention of letting Gon escape. He used Tempest Wing, and a blue holographic wing appeared behind his back. Then he shot up into the sky. Slime Mold could only watch it happen. He couldn't believe a human could fly like that, using magic to transfer consciousness into the owl monster's corpse. And because he was too weak, he was completely ignored. It felt just like when he first came to this world. So many things had happened so fast that he needed time to process everything. Then he thought of Nia as his master, but the contract wasn't complete yet. At the same time, he felt relieved that he was still alive. But then he realized that wasn't right. His friend had just died. Thinking like that didn't feel human, though, technically, he wasn't human anymore. He decided to take revenge. Even if he couldn't kill him, he would at least smash a face full of cytoplasm at the enemy. On the other side of the forest, the system notified that the mana loan repayment was complete. Remaining health, 789 out of 2,865,981. Mana, 0 out of 377,845. It issued a warning that the host's left arm was severely damaged and needed immediate treatment. After treatment, the energetic status would return. Gon told the system to stop stating the obvious. He had nothing left. He asked it to help him contact the transmigrator summoned by the Hope coordinate. The system replied that long-distance communication was not possible before the initial connection was established. However, it could detect signals on the same frequency. The good news was that he was moving closer to a stronger signal. He knew the Holy See would send more people to clean things up. That made him decide to take the new transmigrator and leave before they arrived, then regroup later. Blood dripped as he walked. Meanwhile, Slime Mold thought he found his target. He jumped down, ready to attack. He struck the armor. He got confused when he felt it. Something about it didn't match what he expected. Gon fell to the ground. Slime Mold realized it wasn't a neck. It was just tassels on the helmet. He quickly apologized and explained that the forest was too dark, so he misjudged and attacked the wrong person. He added that the guy wore a flashy helmet for no reason. Then he asked if he was still alive. Gon grabbed him. He was furious. He recognized Hawk's weapon and smelled Naya's blood on him. He accused him of killing his guild members and assumed he was a servant of the church. Slime Mold's words came out muffled. Suddenly, the system connection was established. Gon was surprised to see that he had a system interface. He asked if he was a transmigrator. At the same time, Slime Mold realized he wasn't the only transmigrator in this world. Slime Mold and Gon sat down and talked to catch each other up. Gon gave him the basic story. He explained that to fight the evil church, he activated the noble phantasm, Hope Coordinate, and summoned Slime Mold into this world. Slime Mold finally understood why he was here. The humans he met before were all part of Gon's guild, but it made him sad when Gon admitted that, with his current strength, he couldn't even save the girl named Nia. Slime Mold asked how he could help. Gon told him not to rush. When he first transmigrated, he was just like him, clueless. After awakening his system, he followed it step by step, completing quests and slowly growing stronger. Slime Mold said Gon had it easier since he was human and could learn magic, while he started as a single-celled organism. He complained that surviving hadn't been easy at all. Gon revealed the truth. He wasn't human either. That was the real reason he always wore armor. That made Slime Mold ask what he really was. Gon answered that he was something humans hated, a goblin. Slime Mold pictured the usual goblins, green, ugly, greedy, aggressive creatures that only thought with their lower halves. Short, weak, and living underground. After describing that, he admitted Gon might actually have it worse. If he looked like that, he'd rather stay a cute Slime Mold. Gon removed his helmet. He looked nothing like that. He had long pointed ears, pale green skin, white hair with braids, and a sharp golden eye. He looked more like an elf than a monster. Slime Mold was stunned. He looked way too cool. He immediately complained that it was unfair, but Gon didn't feel that way. If humans found out the truth, he'd be hunted down. Meanwhile, Slime Mold's small body was actually perfect for moving around towns unnoticed. Still, Slime Mold complained that the difference in their character design was ridiculous. Gon explained that the 100-style guild he founded aimed to remove barriers and bring harmony to all life. But so far, no one in the guild knew his real identity. He quickly changed the topic. There was no time to dwell on the past. The church had already sent Merlin, the most ruthless of the 7 holy knights, so they had to move fast. Slime Mold asked what they needed to hurry for. Gon synchronized all the magic and combat skills he had learned and transferred them to him. Slime Mold was shocked. Something like that was even possible. At that moment, he realized he was about to skyrocket in strength. Gon originally thought that although the Pope was suspicious, his past actions did help the common people. So he went along with it and accepted the quest, hoping to get closer to the truth. But from the very first step, he had already walked into a trap prepared for him. The battle drained everything he had, but he also destroyed many of the church's hidden trump cards. The road ahead became even more dangerous, so he needed someone to fight beside him. Slime Mold asked what the church and the Pope did to make him hate them so much. He knew it couldn't be something simple like ruling the world. At that moment, the skill transfer reached 2%. But the world was already under the church's control, so that was never Gon's goal. He explained that the church now wanted to sacrifice all life in the world as energy, open a passage, and send those opportunists to ascend to a higher universe. Slime Mold didn't expect villains to go this far. He asked how they even planned to sacrifice all life. Gon said it all began when he first transmigrated into that world. As Slime Mold already knew, he arrived as a goblin cub, the lowest of the low. In a dark abandoned mine, he grew up catching bugs and eating scraps left behind by higher-ranking goblins. To survive, he even had to gnaw on human remains they captured, until he turned 5 and his system finally awakened. After gaining power, he wiped out all the evil inside that filthy mine. He couldn't accept killing his own kind blindly because his soul was still human. He rescued the women who had been imprisoned and treated like tools, helping them escape and start new lives in a remote wasteland. But after years of suffering, many of them were mentally unstable and deeply scarred. Fortunately, he had a special racial skill that allowed him to help stabilize and support them. Slime Mold sympathized with him. Even though his body was a slime mold, he also believed his soul was still human. He compared Gon's special skill to his own decomposition. He had a rough idea of how Gon's ability worked. Gon admitted he envied Slime Mold's skill. It was simple and efficient, unlike his own, which consumed a lot of time and stamina. Fortunately, every time he copulates with female adventurers of different professions, he levels up an attribute. Still, his ability allowed him to steadily grow stronger and gain different attributes depending on who he worked with. It also gave him large amounts of experience. With dual cultivation skill, he built a strong foundation in both physical and magical strength. He also formed close bonds with those he saved and eventually created a family with them. Wanting to give them a better life, he decided to head to the royal capital. Slime Mold felt slightly annoyed. It sounded like he was bragging. Gon then said that going to the royal capital was the worst mistake of his life. Because of that decision, something terrible happened to his wives and children. But then, at 12% transmission, Merlin suddenly appeared. Gon instantly shifted his attention. But Merlin had instantly released wind blades. It was the same devastating attack as before. Circle of Wind's Demise. The ground was carved into deep circular marks, and the surrounding trees were completely uprooted. Merlin had already learned that Gon's true form was a goblin, but instead of disgust, he was intrigued. If goblins could have such talent, he wanted to capture him alive and dissect him for study. It was a shame the Pope had ordered his complete execution. He heard rustling nearby and knew Gon was still alive. He asked how he managed to kill Kadoyalawa, who had an undying body and adaptive power. The system warned Gon that his symbiotic armor durability had dropped to 0%. It was completely damaged and needed immediate repair. The system also advised him to retreat, as the situation was unfavorable. Gon told the system to shut up. Merlin found that interesting. He wondered if Gon was talking to the invisible system they couldn't see. He grew curious. If he took Gon's body, could he inherit that system too? The thought excited him. Gon replied that Kadoyalawa's undying chimera body was the result of experiments built on countless lives. Because of that, he called Merlin an inhuman devil, a servant of the church. Merlin found it amusing. He questioned whether Gon even understood what life meant. In the eyes of higher dimensions, beings like them weren't even worth mentioning. While he spoke, Slime Mold threw rocks at him. Merlin caught them easily. Slime Mold didn't expect that. Merlin mocked Gon, saying it was pathetic that this weak monster was all he had left. He then used gaze on Slime Mold. Slime Mold felt exposed, like his entire existence was being seen through. His body froze, unable to move. Then Merlin noticed something. Gon was gone. He realized he had been tricked while distracted. He wondered where Gon had run. Gon suddenly appeared above him and said he never planned to run. He used physical arts, weak point break, and struck from above. Merlin responded with abyss magic, geometric inferno. Slime Mold thought it was over. Merlin admitted that physical combat was his weakness, but he wouldn't let Gon get close again. But Gon, who should have been burned to ashes, answered that weak point break works on magic too. He reached out and grabbed Merlin. His hand locked onto Merlin's neck and slammed him down. Gon declared that even if he died today, he would drag Merlin down with him. Gon had only 1 out of 2,865,981 health left. The system activated Last Stand, which would last for 1 minute. During that time, no matter what damage he took, his health would stay at 1. He activated the skill Final Accord. Merlin panicked when he heard it. He struggled to break free and asked if Gon even understood the cost of that magic. The system warned him that the skill would override Last Stand and his health would drop to 0. When that happened, both his body and soul would completely vanish. He was told to think carefully, but it didn't matter anymore. He activated Final Accord. Merlin's spirit began to get pulled out of his body. At the same time, Gon's own body started to fade. He apologized to Slime Mold. They had just met, and now he had to say goodbye. But there was no other choice. If Merlin wasn't destroyed, none of them would survive. He entrusted the mission of saving the world to Slime Mold, and warned him never to trust the church. Slime Mold broke down in tears. He begged Gon not to die. He wanted Gon to carry him forward. If someone as strong as Gon couldn't win, how could a simple slime mold save the world? A glowing magic circle formed above them, filled with bright green symbols. Gon's body slowly dissolved into the light. His final words were simple. Believe in yourself. In that moment, Slime Mold understood. He hadn't been summoned just to exist. He was meant to bring Gon here. Then Gon disappeared. The light flared brightly, and in the next instant it was gone, leaving only faint green traces behind. The armor fell to the ground. Slime Mold cried uncontrollably. Then Merlin appeared in the air, cursing Gon. He complained that the mission had turned into a complete failure. There were candles shaped like praying women, with calm faces and hands on their chests. Only one was lit, its flame flickering while the others stayed dark and still. Merlin said that 5 of the life candles, meant to connect the chaotic universe and prepare for ascension, were extinguished all at once. If not for the fact that only this sanctified fall corpse of a low-level monster remained for him to descend into, suddenly, a slime was thrown at him. Slime Mold spat at him in anger. He declared that he had inherited Gon's will, along with his grudge for that girl. He said he would settle the score with Merlin. He acted tough, but secretly left a clone behind as an escape route. If anything went wrong, he could transfer his consciousness there instantly. Merlin's face was covered in slime. He looked annoyed. He didn't expect that the contract monster left behind by Gon would dare attack him. He said Slime Mold would suffer in Gon's place. Then he used abyss magic, atavistic ray. Slime Mold got confused. Aside from glowing like a rainbow, he felt nothing. That only made Merlin angrier. He guessed his soul had been badly damaged, and his magic power had dropped a lot. He couldn't accept it. He was the strongest mage in the kingdom. There was no way he couldn't deal with a weak monster like this. Slime Mold knew Merlin had already been beaten half to death by Gon. And Merlin didn't know about his hidden trump card. He decided to use that gap to catch him off guard. Suddenly, the basilisk, the bird with the snake tail, kicked Merlin. Merlin slammed into a boulder with huge force, blood spraying everywhere. That only made him angrier. His veins bulged as he warned them that once he recovered, he would return and burn this swamp into a wasteland. The basilisk gathered flames in its neck. Then it unleashed a high-tier spell, Pseudo-Dragon Breath. The flames blasted across the ground. When the fire faded, his body was left completely charred. Then the basilisk ate him. After swallowing, its snake tail moved. Then its whole body began to glow. Slime Mold watched as it evolved. It evolved from a snake secretary bird into a feathered serpent dragon. It became a long, serpent-like creature with a red dragon head, complete with horns and whiskers. Its body was thick and covered in scales, but parts of it shifted into a bird-like form, with white feathers, strong limbs, and a long neck ending in a sharp beak. Overall, it looked like a fusion of a dragon and a bird, with a long, twisting body and mismatched features. It flapped its wings and flew away. Slime Mold was completely overwhelmed by what he had just witnessed. The system notified that skill transfer had reached 37%, but the connection was interrupted, causing the failure to acquire super magic. The reason? He had no magic power. Because of that, 4 dimensions enhancement and elemental resistance also failed. Other skills failed too, including high-tier divine arts and super union. Only martial arts talent was successfully obtained. While Slime Mold mourned Gon, the system kept listing what he did gain: forging skill, medical knowledge, cooking skill, encyclopedia at 71%, and map atlas at 83%. He kept crying. He felt it would have been better to stay a carefree little slime mold. Even though he gained so much, he couldn't feel happy at all. He used search. His body stretched out like vines. He gathered the armor and slowly pieced it back together. He knew he couldn't stay like this. He had to move forward and inherit Gon's legacy. Otherwise, when the church sacrificed all life in this world, no one would survive. He put on the helmet. He stretched his body to fill the armor from head to toe. The armor was now filled with slime mold. Even without a proper body, he believed he could control it. He tried to take a step, but he lost balance. His arm almost fell off. He realized how hard it was. If he focused on the left side, he lost control of the right. If he focused on the upper body, the lower body stopped moving. In the end, he collapsed. He decided to give up on using the armor for now and hide it instead. He didn't know when the church would send more people, so he ate it and stored it inside his slime mold space. After that, he wandered around. Then he returned to his tree. Too much had happened in one night. His mind was overloaded, so he decided to take a moment and sort everything out. First, he checked the encyclopedia. It contained information about Deep Valley Mountains, polar ice fields, barren mines, and the royal capital. He realized the world was far bigger than he thought, and he confirmed that he was currently in the swamp forest. The royal capital had placed portals in key locations, allowing travel between regions. These portals were controlled by the church. Adventurers had to apply to use them and travel to different areas. In return, half of the resources they gathered had to be handed over to the church's tax. He thought that if he could find a portal, he could go straight to the royal capital. Now, his path was clear. But before going there, he needed to get stronger. Right now, his only real trump cards were damaged high-level equipment, and the corpse of the girl named Nia. He paused, wondering if he should decompose it. He spent a long time thinking about it, but he knew that even if he kept her, there was no way to bring her back. So instead of letting her slowly rot, he chose to decompose her body. Her soul said goodbye to him. He cried as he said goodbye in return. That moment hardened his resolve to destroy the evil church. The system notified that he leveled up to 50. He gained 0.8 enhancement points and unlocked a skill called Domination Level 1. Then, the system merged with his unique traits, Domination and Central Command, combined and evolved into Parasitic Domination Level 1. The next day, a frog rested quietly on top of a water lily. It sensed danger. It jumped away just as Slime Mold used Plasmodial Barrage on it. But more stones followed, and this time it got hit and died. Slime Mold wanted to test his new skill. Parasitic Domination Level 1 works by sending a cluster of slime mold into a target's body. It spreads through the biological network, replaces the original consciousness, and turns the body into a controllable corpse puppet. With the encyclopedia synced from Gon's system, the skill description was much clearer. He began by invading the corpse. He spat a part of his body into the frog's mouth. Then he activated the parasite. His body spread inside the frog. Moments later, the frog moved. It stood up. He was shocked. It came back to life. The system confirmed the parasite was successful. He gained a swamp frog corpse puppet, but it had reached the current limit. To control more, he would need to level up the skill. He realized that once parasitism succeeded, the body could move on its own. Next was domination. He focused and transferred his consciousness into the slime inside the corpse. Then he activated dominion. Slime Mold was amazed when his consciousness moved into the corpse. The frog became his puppet. Its durability was 0%, and its available skills were Charged Strike, Tongue Fist, and Pounce Bite. He was surprised that it even had a species description. He realized the durability was low because it was already dead. The vision through the puppet was wide. It felt strange, but exciting. Since he had taken over all the nerves, even the muscle memory came with it. It felt just like using his own body. He didn't need to adjust at all. The frog turned and looked at him. Slime Mold understood something important. Once the puppet was active, his main body entered automatic mode. That meant his real body could be exposed to danger. He knew he had to hide it well during real fights. Still, he couldn't help getting excited while driving the frog. The puppet spotted a fly nearby. He used tongue fist to catch it. The experience felt fun. He decided to move around and try more. Slime Mold kept jumping. He pounced on a small snail. He kept going. Until the signal weakened, and suddenly the connection was cut. The frog collapsed. Slime Mold was caught off guard. He estimated the distance, about 30 meters. He realized that when controlling a puppet, he couldn't go too far from his main body. He moved closer. Then the frog suddenly stood up again and started jumping around on its own. He thought it came back to life. That's when he understood. There were two states, active domination and automatic mode. His main body acted like a signal tower. During active domination, going too far caused a disconnect. But when close, the puppet switched to automatic mode, moving based on its old instincts. The frog tried to eat the snail, but kept missing. Slime Mold realized something else. The frog just wasn't very smart. He decided to end the test and stored the frog inside his storage space. Thinking ahead, he came up with a new goal: defeat the evolved basilisk and turn it into his puppet. If he could control a high-level magic beast, he could build a parasitic army and use it to fight against the evil Holy See. With that in mind, he continued searching for stronger targets. He dangled from a branch and swung over the water. Something shot up from below and hit him with a water jet, dealing -70 damage. He got annoyed that someone dared to attack him sneakily. He demanded to know who it was. He thought it was a spitting water stinky crab. Perfect. Some material just delivered itself, saving him the trouble of finding one. But when the creature surfaced, he saw it looked more like a pufferfish. Slime Mold was annoyed that every creature treated him like food. He decided to show his power as a level 50 low-ranking monster lord. The pufferfish prepared to fire a water gun. It shot at him, but he dodged with ease. Then he countered with plasmodial barrage. Water splashed everywhere. Something moved fast underwater. Slime Mold got furious that it just attacked and ran. Of course, he wasn't letting that slide. He morphed into a net and trapped the pufferfish inside. Several pufferfish were caught. He gained a lot of experience after defeating them. Then, our boy created a parasitic puppet pufferfish. Its durability was at 99%, and its available skills were water gun, steel tooth cut, and inflate. After that, he targeted a crab. He watched it eat from the tree. He dropped right on top of it. The crab tried to shake him off. This made Slime Mold drill deeper into the gaps of its carapace. Then he activated Parasite. The crab was defeated, earning him experience points. After that, he used Dominion, and it gave him a swamp crab puppet. Its durability was also at 99%, and its available skills were water gun, mud foam, and clamp. A few hours later, in the forest, a frog fought the bees. You know it will be intense because the mage bee had already used the swarm summon skill. This was Slime Mold's puppet frog. He used the empowered tongue technique and struck all the bees in one swing. The system sent several notifications saying the targets were defeated, and he gained experience points. The frog puppet swallowed all the bees stuck to its tongue. Its body swelled up, its belly bulging with uneven lumps. While two bees cast magic. When they formed a honey bomb, Slime Mold knew the swamp frog alone wouldn't be enough. His consciousness shifted, and he used his crab puppet and made it fire. It unleashed a water gun. The system warned that the parasitic puppet, the fiddler crab, had abnormal status. Its internal moisture was drained, and the skill water gun could no longer be used. He was told to restore moisture immediately. He was shocked that it couldn't fire water gun anymore. Meanwhile, the bees prepared fireballs. They caused a fiery explosion. The impact sent debris flying as the force spread across the area. The crab and frog puppets were left roasted. The bees thought the battle was over. Suddenly, one of them reacted in shock as a fast, spinning blue strike rushed straight at it. It blasted half of the bee's body. Slime Mold, inside a pufferfish puppet, hid quietly in a small pool, celebrating his successful sneak attack. But nearby, another bee quickly fought back, launching a glowing attack. Slime Mold used consciousness shift. He escaped, leaving the parasitic puppets behind. He didn't mind, though, since he could just catch more. The bee grew even angrier. Then several bees gathered together, forming a layered wax barrier as they prepared to block the path. But Slime Mold easily broke the barrier and passed through. He knew he was stronger than them. He was just testing their teamwork. He attached himself to the beehive. and spread his body like vines to search, until he found the queen bee and used parasite on it. If his plan worked, he'd get his first army. His plan was to control the queen bee, then control the entire swarm. The system notified that parasite was successful. Using the queen bee, he called the children to rise. Its sound waves spread through the fallen bees, and, to his surprise, nothing happened. Then he realized that once the queen bee dies, the whole swarm is done for. That means parasitizing the queen bee to control the hive is a dead end. In that case, using the queen bee as a puppet is pointless, so he decided to switch to the most useful one. He created a parasitic puppet hornet mage. It has 99% durability, and its available skills are gather honey, spark, ember, and levitation. That night, in his hideout, he called his slime mold squad and made them line up. The frog croaked. He named it Waji. Next was the crab. This new one had bigger pincers than the last. He named it Xieju. The poor pufferfish was summoned on land, and it struggled. He named it Xiaotun. Then our boy got confused when he didn't see the master bee. He was sure he released it along with the others. He had a suspicion, and he was right. When he looked at the frog, this fucker was eating the bee. That made him punch the frog. He announced that slime mold squad rule number 1, no eating teammates. The bee was spat out, but its durability dropped to 70%. Slime mold assured it that everything was fine now. Slime mold realized that his combat squad was complete. There was a frog, a crab, a pufferfish, and a bee. The crab served as the tank. The pufferfish acted like a marksman. Of course, the bee was the mage, and the frog was the assassin, and lastly, slime mold was the commander-in-chief and the strongest support. He imagined them inside a pixel game fighting a level boss, the feathered serpent dragon. The feathered serpent dragon used a trample attack on the master bee. Slime mold made Xieju use carapace defense. So when the feathered serpent dragon reached for the mage, it was blocked by the crab. The crab's shell was damaged. Since Xieju's carapace defense was depleted, its health kept dropping. Slime mold, acting as support, helped it recover using the skill cytoplasmic injection. The shell slowly patched itself up. Then, when slime mold saw an opening, he made the mage and the marksman go all out and attack. The two prepared their attacks. The feathered serpent dragon took continuous damage. Slime mold realized the creature's hide was very tough. He made Master Bee and Xiaotun hold it in place while Waji moved in. Waji used an assassination skill and targeted the dragon's eye, making it bleed. The feathered serpent dragon took massive damage and entered a weakened state. The squad cheered when they saw it happen. Slime mold told them this wasn't the time to celebrate and ordered them to finish it. He commanded them to take it down. Everyone charged at once, and it caused a huge explosion. Eventually, the feathered serpent dragon was completely defeated. They celebrated their victory. But of course, all of that was just slime mold's imagination. In the present moment, he didn't want to waste any more time. So their training began. At the swamp, something moved very fast. It was a level 9 bouncy mouse. It kept jumping across the swamp, but a predator noticed it and grabbed it. Then it dragged it onto land and ate the rabbit. This monster was a level 21 mimic stone cat. Out of nowhere, it felt intense pain. It didn't notice a giant swamp mosquito, level 35, latch onto it. It got sucked dry. The mosquito started to feel full, so it pulled away from the body and left. The body was completely dried out. The mosquito hovered somewhere in the swamp. It landed and laid its eggs, which were eaten by fish as they fell into the water. Suddenly, electricity spread across the water, and it electrocuted the nearby animals. The mosquito and several fish were left roasted, floating on the surface, and they were eaten by a larger creature. It was a level 44 electric catfish. Unexpectedly, its body began to glow. Slime mold stood on top of a branch and watched it. It looked like it was evolving. After that snakebird, this was the second time he had seen evolution happen. The creature evolved into a level 52 thunder catfish. It used thunder flash, and water sprayed everywhere as it moved at high speed, and just like that, it was gone. Slime mold was truly amazed. He noticed that monster evolution was becoming more frequent. From his encyclopedia, the world background started loading. It reached 100% and revealed new information. The area was a swamp forest. Its ecological level was in the S-rank danger zone. It was one of the places with the most variety of monsters. A large number of high-level magic beasts lived there, and evolution was a normal occurrence. The creatures there were classified as weak, medium, high-level, and king-level. In the battle records, Gon fought the Swamp Forest Monster Alliance. His target was the regional king, Kidoyalawa. During that fight, Kidoyalawa gathered all high-level magic beasts and most of the intermediate ones to attack Gon. But in the end, the entire monster alliance was wiped out, and the ecosystem suffered heavy damage. At present, the battle has ended, and the ecosystem has entered recovery. The land is gathering magic power, providing energy to restore itself. Ecological pathways are rebuilding, and monsters are restarting the evolution process. Because of this, the surviving intermediate magic beasts became the biggest winners of this magic surge. It was basically ecological survivor bias. With no competition, they could gather resources freely and gain a better chance at evolving first. Of course, evolution doesn't follow just one path. Sometimes a bit of luck can let a low-level monster rise up. The outcome is always unpredictable. The only thing certain is that the food chain in this land is about to be completely reshuffled. Every monster has stepped onto this chaotic ladder, all trying to climb higher and become the new king. Slime Mold finally understood what was happening. He found the database Gon gave him very useful. It made him wonder if the monsters he turned into parasitic puppets could still evolve. He also noticed that the electric fish from earlier was far stronger than him. The system informed him that level isn't an absolute measure of strength. Many factors affect it, such as species, traits, and learned skills or magic. It was like the saying, dragons give birth to dragons, phoenixes to phoenixes, and a mouse's child will just dig holes. In short, even a level 100 mouse could still end up as a snack for a young dragon. The system also stated that there was no data about the evolution of parasitic puppets. Suddenly, a commotion broke out. Electricity crackled in the air. Slime Mold decided to check what was going on. Slime Mold rushed toward the scene. He was stunned by what he saw. The thunder catfish was wrapped around a crocodile, releasing electricity. And this was a level 60 swamp crocodile. Part of the thunder catfish was already inside the crocodile's mouth. The crocodile regained its senses and bit off the thunder catfish's body. The head of the thunder catfish landed right in front of Slime Mold, making him think it had been delivered straight to his door. He moved closer to the gruesome scene. The swamp turned red as pieces of the thunder catfish scattered everywhere, while the crocodile lay dead, flipped on its back. He inspected the corpses and saw that one was rotten, while the other was charred. He knew parasitizing them wouldn't work. Suddenly, he was electrocuted. He didn't expect so much electricity to still remain. He took continuous damage of -10, so he had to consume 115 portions of honey. This caused a nutritional overload. His health jumped to 50,000 over 3,909 for 1 hour. He grew larger, big enough to swallow the bodies and decompose them. He gained a large amount of experience from the decomposition. Then, he released the bones into the water. He felt extremely satisfied afterward. From level 50, he rose to level 51. He made sure to use the time well and kept feasting. The forest was quiet, until he appeared rolling around and consuming everything in his path. He loved going on a rampage. It boosted his experience like crazy. He noticed something ahead. There was a huge mangrove forest on the other side, far more lush than where he was. He expected stronger monsters to be there. His curiosity took over, so he decided to check it out. He rolled toward it, not realizing the danger hiding in the water. Many level 19 piranhas bit him. The system warned that he was under heavy attack. The total health loss had already exceeded 1,000. He was annoyed by these little fish, and he fought back by absorbing them to recover his health points. In addition to that, he also gained some experience points, but he only recovered 80 health points while taking -100 damage, so it wasn't worth it. The system warned him that he was under attack by a large number of monsters. The total health loss had exceeded 5,000. There were too many of them, and his movement slowed in the water, so he couldn't react at all. The health he lost to the piranhas was greater than what he recovered by eating them, even if they were just weak creatures under level 20. The system explained that level is only a vertical reference for strength. It cannot be used to directly compare different species. When monsters act in groups, their danger level increases greatly. At that point, strength can't be judged just by level or numbers alone. The system also introduced a skill called Devourer's Benefit, which makes the host's body gigantic. While useful, it also makes him an easier target, so it must be used carefully. He was getting eaten from all sides, and this really wasn't the best time for a full system lecture. He used Plasmodial Barrage to eject himself from the giant body. And he escaped. The large body was completely devoured by the piranhas. If he consumed more honey to recover, he wondered if he could become giant again. The system replied yes, but the duration wouldn't reset. He only had 19 minutes left. He became large again and rolled through the forest, constantly gaining experience from decomposition. Eventually, he stopped. He noticed that the terrain was no longer changing, but the plants were still growing at an incredible speed. He was amazed at how the Earth's magic power nourished everything. He began to see things differently and realized that overthrowing the church might not be that hard. Even though slime mold lacked a dragon's breath or a beast's claws, his greatest strength was energy. And now, he had finally passed the hardest stage, from 0 to 1. All that remained was grinding from 1 to 100. As long as he kept decomposing and absorbing day and night, in about a month, he could make the entire church face a mold army at their gates. He was lost in that fantasy when the system suddenly shut it down, saying it wouldn't work. He asked why. The system explained that as his level increases, the experience gained from decomposing low-level targets also drops. So 1 level gap gives 95%, 3 levels gives 77%, 10 levels gives 60%, 20 levels gives 36%, 50 levels gives 7.7%, and 100 levels gives just 0.6%. He realized that after rolling around for so long, the experience notifications kept popping up like crazy, yet his level didn't increase at all. Now he understood. The experience gain had been reduced. He grew annoyed at the system and demanded that it clearly show exact experience values. But the system refused, saying calculating precise values would consume too much computing power. It could only simulate results in the background. It also notified him that the power overload had ended and the requirement for the next activation would increase 5 times. Suddenly, slime mold shrank back to his original size. A pile of huge bones dropped when he became small again. He noticed that the system had become smarter after the update, but its artificial intelligence was still incredibly annoying. He warned it to tone it down. Suddenly, slime mold felt strange. He was too full, and he started vomiting everything he had absorbed all over the place. Looking at the pile of trash he had decomposed, he realized one thing. If he wanted to level up, he needed to find stronger opponents. At sunset, he returned near the mangrove and saw that the tide had gone down. He could finally cross the dry lake. But the thick mud made him feel disgusted. Slime mold sat on the muddy ground, noticing the many holes around it. Curious, he leaned closer and called out, wondering if something inside would come out. Suddenly, he was struck. A sharp object pierced into his body from the mud. After that, he stayed still, a chunk of his body damaged, dirt and fluid dripping as he tried to process what just happened. That made him furious, so he dove into the hole. He went all the way inside. Suddenly, a mudfish was thrown into the air. He faced another fish, but since they were on land, he wasn't afraid. It was a level 17 mud skipper. It suddenly lifted itself up and released waves from its mouth. Slime mold didn't expect it to make that kind of cry. Many mud skippers came out of the hole after hearing the call. Slime mold realized they worked in groups, which meant the danger was far beyond just a single level 17 creature. He saw it as them ganging up on him. But luckily, he wouldn't be fighting alone. For some reason, he even copied an anime line as he summoned his puppets, saying, "Summoning Jutsu." When the summons appeared, the area filled with mist. Then the frog, crab, pufferfish, and bee were revealed. Slime mold felt way too cool. He was honestly excited that he could use skills he used to only see in manga. The mud skippers attacked together using mud shot. The crab took the hit. The mud quickly hardened around its body, piling up until it was completely stuck. Even seeing that, slime mold wasn't worried. His whole body was made of cytoplasm anyway. The mud skippers lifted themselves up, their bodies stretching as wings and limbs extended outward. Then, half of their bodies curled. Slime mold was surprised when he saw that. For a second, it even looked like they were bowing to him. He quickly reminded himself to stop daydreaming, because every time he did, things went wrong. The mud skippers curled their bodies to the limit. Then they launched themselves into the sky. Slime mold wondered if they were putting on a show. Then the mud skippers spun their bodies mid-air. Slime mold called them chainsaw fish. They turned into spinning blades and targeted the crab. The system warned that the crab's durability was dropping fast, 55% remaining. Slime mold started repairs using cytoplasmic injection. He left behind a blob for it to use like a blood pack. Then he shifted his consciousness and ordered the pufferfish to attack. The pufferfish inhaled deeply and used steel fang cut, slicing into the mud skipper's body. As for the frog, it was agile enough to dodge the mud skippers. It counterattacked using tongue fist. Unexpectedly, its tongue got cut off. Seeing that, slime mold had to transfer his consciousness into it. The frog's battle IQ in auto mode was too low, so he had to take control himself. It dodged the incoming attack by spinning like a ballet dancer. But inside, slime mold was starting to feel overwhelmed. When he found an opening, He kicked the mud skipper with full force and defeated it. After that, Slime Mold shifted his consciousness again. This time, he controlled the bee. He used a triple beeswax barrier. It blocked the mud skippers from getting closer. Slime Mold realized he needed a way to restrict their movement first. The bee unleashed the skill Honey Convergence. It took down some of the mud skippers and wrapped them together in honey. The other mud skippers took the chance to attack, but Slime Mold shifted to the pufferfish. He inflated it, throwing the mud skippers out of position. Then, the bee used Honey Convergence again, and the mud skippers got stuck on the ground because of the sticky honey. He was pleased that his plan to restrict their movement with sticky honey worked. The stickiness of honey comes from its high sugar content and low water, making it even more viscous than Slime Mold's own cytoplasm. Then the bee used Spark Ember. It burned the trapped mud skippers, and the system kept notifying him that he gained experience from killing and decomposing them. Slime Mold noticed something. Waji the frog was celebrating. Slime Mold realized that parasitic puppets keep some of their original personality. Master Bee carried the fight, yet didn't act flashy like Waji. Xiaotun splashed water on Shiju. Suddenly, Slime Mold paused, sensing something in the air. Even without a nose, his body reacted to a strange smell. He realized it was the mud skippers. He had accidentally created a new dish, honey roast fish, and it was added to his cooking skill. The parasitic puppets gathered around, and he realized they wanted to eat too. He invited them to dig in. Slime Mold took a bite and noticed how the honey enhanced the fish, bringing out its freshness while removing the muddy smell. With heat, the skin turned crispy, while the inside stayed tender, perfectly cooked. The system notified him that decomposing cooked dishes gives more experience. Out of nowhere, something suddenly emerged from the mud. It made him alert. He stepped back and told everyone to prepare for battle. It was the level 49 mud skipper boss. The encyclopedia showed that it was a boss-type monster that remembers enemies and uses sound waves to command its swarm. On its own, it wasn't extremely dangerous, but it had basic intelligence. Slime Mold decided to stick to his previous strategy, confident he could still win. But his parasitic puppets were too busy eating. It made him frustrated. The mud skipper boss attacked. It tried to swallow them whole. Fortunately, Slime Mold grabbed all the puppets and ran away. His wireless attack mode was still unreliable, so he switched to wired mode to strengthen the signal. By directly linking to multiple parasitic puppets through his cytoplasm, controlling them became easier. Even if it was less precise, it made up for it by coordinating many at once for faster combined attacks. Then he realized it was basically like puppet jutsu, which felt pretty cool. The mud skipper boss swallowed what was in its mouth. Slime Mold ordered his puppets to attack. He noticed how the mud skipper boss ate the corpses of its own subordinates without hesitation. It was truly a creature driven by instinct. One puppet sneaked behind it. It was Waji. It used empowered tongue, but it was easily knocked away by the mud skipper boss's tail. Master B used Spark Ember. When a huge explosion went off, Slime Mold thought the fight was over, but to his surprise, the mud skipper boss used intermediate magic, Swamplow Art, to shield itself from the flames. Slime Mold was shocked that it could use intermediate magic. Even if it looked dumb, it was stronger than expected, so he decided to push through, head on, and trade attacks. He figured it was time for Shiju to step in, but to his surprise, he was no longer connected to it. He was furious that it had cut the connection and ignored his orders. The system informed him that without direct commands, it was still in automatic mode, so it would act based on its own judgment. Then he saw its body glowing brightly. He realized that because it was about to evolve, it chose to keep eating earlier. Jeju molted and became the Swamp Crab King. The encyclopedia revealed that the Swamp Crab King is a boss-level scavenger. Its shell is as hard as iron, making it difficult to damage with normal weapons. It hides in mud to ambush targets year-round and is hard to detect. Its pincers can crush iron shoes, and its threat level is medium. Its shell also gathers gold from the mud, making it valuable material for forging equipment. Slime Mold used Consciousness Shift. He felt more confident now that he had a medium-threat Swamp Crab King, while the mud skipper boss was only average. It took position, and told the mud skipper boss to prepare itself. Then it lunged forward. The mud skipper boss raised its fins, and ripped them out to use the skill Fin Boomerang. The Swamp Crab King was cut in half. Slime Mold couldn't believe it was killed instantly. He checked the cooking skill. After a swamp crab molts its shell, it can take about 10 days for the new shell to fully harden. During that time, its defense is at its weakest, and it's also at its most delicious. It can be coated in flour or even better, potato starch, then deep fried in hot oil for 30 minutes. After that, it's ready to eat. Only the golden swamp crab king is edible. Green or blue ones have absorbed heavy metals and can't be eaten. Slime mold found it very delicious. But he realized the answer he was looking for wasn't there. The mud skipper boss's fin moved like a boomerang and returned to the mud skipper boss. This guy is just aura farming at this point. It looked dumb, but this guy's cool enough to be an MC as well. The mud skipper boss returned the fin to its body. It adjusted it into place, and after that, it acted smug, taunting slime mold to come at it. Slime mold got triggered by the provocation. He became determined to take it down. He was sure it would give a lot of experience. He spread his vine-like body and used search. The mud skipper boss looked confused. Suddenly, slime mold appeared with a mace in hand, and the mud skipper boss had no time to react, but its maxed slippery skin reduced the impact, lowering physical damage by 50 to 70% and fire damage by 20%. Slime mold spread his body around it. He realized its skin could deflect his attacks, but it didn't matter. He would slowly grind it down. He attacked again with the mace. This forced the mud skipper boss to use swamp flow art. The mud rose, and it cut off slime mold's connection to the parasitic puppets. Master B attacked, but the fire was blocked by mud. Then the mud skipper boss targeted the bee. It was almost trapped. Luckily, Waji grabbed Master B with its tongue. The entire mud pit was under the mud skipper boss's control, giving it a home field advantage. Slime mold realized he had underestimated it. It was much stronger than other monsters at the same level. It seemed that monsters with intelligence had a huge boost in combat power. The mud skipper boss noticed him escaping, so it threw its fins toward him. This was the fin boomerang technique. Meanwhile, Xiaotun inhaled deeply. Slime mold felt relieved that it came to help. It blocked the incoming boomerang fin, but its durability dropped fast. Its inflated body got pierced. It deflated like a balloon. The system notified slime mold that the parasitic puppet had been destroyed. Slime mold thanked Xiaotun for protecting him and promised its sacrifice wouldn't be wasted. He jumped forward and caught it, and fully decomposed it. The mud skipper boss waited for its fin to return, but it didn't. Slime mold had already decomposed it and gained experience points from it. The mud skipper boss couldn't believe it. It was left with a shiny, bald head. Slime mold laughed, imagining it as a bald fish. Of course, that only made the mud skipper boss furious. It spoke, saying it would kill him. Slime mold was shocked that it could talk. The encyclopedia appeared and explained that if a monster experiences intense emotions in battle, it can trigger intellectual evolution and gain the ability to speak. It activated intermediate magic, swamp flow art. The mud rose like a tsunami. Slime mold decided to end the fight. He planned to use the move that once killed a sanctified monster. He spun the mace and threw it. This move was called plasmatic cannon. The mud skipper boss brought its hands together and formed layers of thick mud walls. The mace struck the wall and kept piercing through each layer. The mud skipper boss's heart skipped a beat as the final layer stretched toward it, barely holding back the attack. Slime mold didn't expect his attack to be fully blocked. He worried that at this rate, even his weapon might be taken by the enemy. Suddenly, the system notified him of a martial arts talent. Martial arts talent. Based on the user's condition, it naturally creates suitable martial techniques, and right now, a move was ready to be used. Slime mold was interested, but instead of overthinking, he decided to just use it. He unleashed Water Hammer, and the mud walls exploded with a loud blast. The mace broke through and struck the mud skipper boss right in the mouth. It was thrown backward, and when it hit the ground, it was already dead. Blood dripped from its mouth, and its face was completely crushed. Rest in peace, bro. Meanwhile, at the royal capital Holy See, all of the life candles were out. Pope Vycross said that 3 days had passed, and all of Merlin's candles of fate had gone dark, with no sign of lighting up again. That meant she had truly sacrificed herself. However, his world magic could no longer detect any trace of Gon. He said the threat could be considered over, but he still asked the others for their thoughts. Merlin was known for careful planning, so they assumed she must have prepared several backup plans. Gon, on the other hand, had been trapped in the swamp forest and worn down for over 2 years, so they found it hard to believe that even in death, he could drag Merlin down with him. One of the men in white robes suspected that Gon, the transmigrator, might still be hiding a trump card. He wanted to go there and wipe out the entire swamp forest to prevent any future trouble. Pope Vycross called him Mr. Far and noted how careful he was. But he rejected the idea, saying the swamp forest's strong vitality was a necessary sacrifice that must be preserved. As for Gon, he assured them that his world magic never makes mistakes, and Gon was already gone. Far, The guild master of the Red-Eye Guild and one of the 7 holy knights said he hoped that was true. He pointed out that the most urgent matter was restoring the strength of the 7 holy knights, as they could not let Merlin's death delay the Grand Ascension plan. Pope Vicross agreed and said the right candidate had just arrived. He called her forward. The person was terrified, but she did her best to greet the Pope and the holy knights. Deer, the guild master of the Holy Anthem Guild and one of the 7 holy knights, recognized her as Merlin's disciple. He agreed she was a good candidate, though he admitted her personality was very different from Merlin's. The poor girl trembled as she begged them to find a way to save her teacher, Merlin. She said she didn't know what to do anymore. Without Merlin, the Blue Hat Guild would fall apart. This girl was Louisa, an S-rank adventurer of the Blue Hat Guild and Merlin's eldest disciple. Vane, the guild master of the Hawkeye Guild and one of the 7 holy knights, said it didn't matter if the Blue Hat Guild collapsed, because her guild was always open to Louisa. She added that other talents were welcome too, though anyone below A rank need not apply. Louisa cried. She thanked her for the offer but refused, saying she had promised her master she would stay in the Blue Hat Guild for life. She begged the Pope to find a way to save her master, and said she was willing to sacrifice herself to beg for the angel's grace. Pope Vicross seemed amused by the strong bond between master and disciple. He asked if she was truly willing to offer herself to save Merlin. She said she was. He explained that even a fallen angel is not all-powerful. Merlin's soul had been completely destroyed, and there would never be a day she returned. Then, he formally declared that the Blue Hat Guild and the title of one of the 7 holy knights would now pass to Louisa. She cried out in shock, refusing to accept it. From above, one of the 7 holy knights calmly shut her down and told her to give thanks at once. He added that many people far stronger than her couldn't even dream of gaining the title of 7 holy knights. She kept sobbing. Louisa accepted the lecture from Lord Vane. She agreed to inherit her master's will, take care of the Blue Hat Guild, and continue to serve the Holy See with all her heart. She remembered her master's final moments. She entered the room and told her master that the tracking magic had been activated, then asked if he was all right. Her master was nothing but skin and bones, almost like an undead corpse. Flies buzzed around him. Half of his body had slipped off the bed while his legs remained on it. He slowly opened his eyes. The sudden movement made part of his body drop to the floor. He cursed Gon, but said that luckily he had prepared this move. He had implanted fragments of his soul into the bodies of every disciple. Louisa had the highest compatibility, and she would be the one to undergo possession and rebirth. He urgently called for Louisa, telling her to come closer and give him her hand. But Louisa refused. As long as she didn't touch him, the magic spell he carved into her heart would not activate. She knew this was true because she had secretly read the Black Magic book. He angrily accused her of disobeying her master's orders and demanded that she save him immediately, saying there was no time. He begged her to save him and even promised to teach her everything. She told him not to be like that and said she would help him right away. She lifted a magic book as power gathered, then slammed it into him. She said it was to give him a quick release and that from now on everything would belong to her. Meanwhile, the Mudskipper boss collapsed, but it quickly regained its senses and stood back up. It realized that Slime Mold had not fallen for its trick. Slime Mold rode Waji while Master B hovered nearby. He told Waji to move faster as they retreated. Since the system had given him experience, he knew the Mudskipper boss wasn't dead yet. He chose to stay safe and escape instead. Suddenly, a loud explosion sounded behind him. It was the Mudskipper boss, charging forward through the mud, in rage. Slime Mold panicked as it started catching up. He pointed Waji in a different direction instead of trying to outrun it across the open mudflats. Waji rushed toward the mangroves. They went deeper inside. The Mudskipper boss searched for them. They hid behind a tree. Slime Mold's water hammer strike needed his body to stretch to the right distance before it could activate. He realized the enemy was smart and wouldn't fall for the same trick again. He also noted that its control over mud was troublesome, and with the terrain advantage, it would be hard to fight. Even though he wanted to defeat it, he chose not to take the risk. The Mudskipper boss shouted in anger, trying to provoke the one hiding, asking if he thought he could hide forever. It used an intermediate magic, Swamp Flow art. Slime Mold was shocked that this move could also be used to scan the area. The Mudskipper boss found him. Mud surged around him. He complained that there was no end to it. Slime Mold suddenly stretched out a long tendril and fired it forward at high speed. The tendril was caught by Master B. The other end was wrapped around Waji's tongue. Basically, Slime Mold turned himself into a rope to pull Waji out of the quicksand. It wasn't working. To his surprise, Waji let go. It was because parasitic puppets in automatic mode always choose the best solution for the main body. Waji slowly sank. He waved his one last goodbye. Rest in peace, Waji. Again, Slime Mold was caught off guard. Meanwhile, Master B grabbed him and flew away. Waji's sacrifice should not be wasted. The Mudskipper boss saw him and decided not to let him escape. It steadied itself and focused, gathering energy to cast an intermediate spell called Swamp Flow Art. Then, the ground suddenly rose, tearing across the trees at high speed. Slime Mold was annoyed that it was still chasing him. He told it to die already. He launched multiple chunks of his body with rocks like bullets. The barrage rained down rapidly. This technique was his cytoplasmic machine gun, but the Mudskipper boss created a mud wall to block it. It checked if it was over. Then it targeted the bee. Master B was hit on the side, causing it to lose that section along with 2 limbs. It held Slime Mold tightly. Slime Mold was shocked that it lifted him into the air and threw him far away. He glanced back at Master B, who gave him a thumbs up, before it was eaten by the Mudskipper boss. Slime Mold shed tears mid-air. Even if they were only puppets, they could not be replaced to him because they had formed a bond in battle. He vowed to always remember them. He spread out his body to land gracefully. While descending, he saw that the area was no longer a mudflat. He landed, assuming it would finally be safe. But the moment he touched the ground, his health points started dropping non-stop, making him jump and hide in the grass. He trembled as he noticed his health points were rapidly falling for no clear reason. The system analyzed the situation, explaining that the area had extremely high salinity, causing an osmotic pressure imbalance. Slime Mold was confused because he thought he had already adapted to it. The system clarified that, while the host adapted to the osmotic pressure of a high-moisture environment, the saline alkali land would continuously and endlessly drain the water from his body. Aside from the local vegetation, any creature, even bones, would be dried into powder. He now had no idea how he would leave the place. It realized the grass patches were too far apart, making it hard to jump from one to another. He was surprised when something crashed behind him. He saw that it was the Mudskipper boss. He couldn't believe it was still coming. He pointed out that it had already eaten a few of his underlings, and the Mudskipper boss also took out his puppets, so he suggested they were even now. He added that chasing him like this would annoy the readers. The Mudskipper yelled at him to cut the crap. It called him a disgusting yellow lump. It was furious for destroying its precious hair and swore it would kill him no matter where he ran. It also thanked him, since the anger it felt made its magic more powerful. It was confused when it felt pain just from standing there. It made it jump around randomly, until it decided to land where Slime Mold was. Of course, this forced Slime Mold to jump from the grass. He yelled that it was too annoying. Since Slime Mold landed on the ground, he kept taking damage, which forced him to use the honey jar. The system notified him that it was fully depleted. He had to leave the saline alkaline land as soon as possible. The Mudskipper clapped. He liked that Slime Mold was suffering and urged him to die a painful death. Slime Mold was still far from the next patch of grass, so he knew he wouldn't make it. He pulled out items from his storage, searching for something that could save his life. Then he found it. A foot covered in armor stepped onto the ground. The Mudskipper was confused. This foot struggled to take a step. It turned out Slime Mold had worn the armor's legs. Just as he expected, it could completely block the damage from the saline alkali land. He struggled to take another step. He knew he still wasn't skilled at using it yet. He panicked when he was about to fall. He forced himself to steady up. The legs were really far apart, but he was just relieved that he was still inside them. Eventually, he got the hang of it. He realized that controlling the legs was like walking on stilts, and once he got the feel for it, it was no longer hard. He mocked the Mudskipper boss by saying he was heading out first, but of course the Mudskipper boss wouldn't allow that. It used its swamp flow art again. Nothing happened. Slime Mold laughed at it. There was no mud, so its magic didn't work. The Mudskipper boss raged, shouting that it would never let the slime escape. A few more minutes later, Slime Mold continued walking away. He spotted something in the distance. It was shining, so it caught his attention. He was curious what it was. On a closer look, it was a portal. Slime Mold was surprised to see the portal, but there was a highly concentrated salt lake blocking the way, and falling in would drain him instantly. He knew he was still too weak to go to the human world, so he decided to head back instead. He chose to play it safe for now, rather than take the risk. A few hours later, it was a rainy night. Outside his dwelling were the tombstones of his puppets. Our boy didn't forget the sacrifices that they made, and then the system showed his profile. His species was Slime Mold, level 51 battle. His title was Weak Creature Lord. His trait was Decomposer. His health points were at 3,989 out of 3,989. He had 0.3 skill enhancement points. His decomposition and parasitic domination were at level 7. Pulsation, poison resistance, and cytoplasm spray were maxed out, and his thunder attribute was at level 2. Parasitic domination was a merged skill, so leveling it up cost 2 skill points. At level 7, he could control up to 7 puppets. He had finally gained some strength, but he still got completely wiped out by that mud skipper. So, tomorrow, he'd have to start from scratch again. As the environment recovered, the surrounding monsters would only grow stronger. The experience gains were higher, but it would also become more dangerous. Slime Mold knew not to get carried away. Choosing the slowest path and building strength first was the safest move. He fell asleep. The rain continued to pour. A loud thunderclap woke him. He suddenly remembered he forgot to close the door. He went to check it. And then, our boy saw something that shocked him. It was the mud skipper boss, and it was there. It said, "Found you! You little yellow bastard!" Then, it attacked him. Slime Mold screamed. He jolted awake. He grabbed his mace and shouted for it not to come any closer. But after a few moments, everything was silent. He realized it was just a dream, proof that he was still traumatized by that thing. The next morning, he created clones of himself and ordered them to gather nearby materials for decomposition. He sent them out, and they quickly dispersed. Slime Mold reset his goals and decided to reach level 60 first. He remembered the system saying that at level 60, he could undergo a class change or evolve. Then suddenly, something hit him. It was a tongue from a lizard. He commented that low-level monsters still couldn't tell who was the hunter and who was the prey. He absorbed the tongue. It quickly pulled back, and then it vanished into camouflage. He searched the tree once he realized the creature could turn invisible. It was a very practical skill, but unlucky for it to run into him. His appendage eventually struck something, and finally, he found it. He turned it into his parasitic puppet, Swamp Chameleon. Corpse Puppet. Swamp Chameleon had 87% durability with skills, Tongue Fist, Tongue Whip, and Camouflage. Moments later, his clones returned with loot. Because of the level gap, the experience gained from direct decomposition was too low. He realized he now needed to develop more cost-efficient methods. And that's when it hit him, cooking. Ingredients processed through cooking not only increased their base experience yield, but also had a chance to trigger extra effects. He asked the system to check what dishes he could make with the ingredients. The system displayed several options. One was charcoal grilled platter, a luxurious dish that restored energy and a massive amount of health experience. It also granted buffs for 5 minutes and restored 1,500 health points. Effect: simple and happy spirit. Requirement: medium heat. Status: cannot be cooked due to unmet conditions. Another was fresh fish roasted, cooked over open fire, simple but aromatic. Effect: crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, and invigorates the spirit. Restores 15 health points. Requirement: medium heat. Status: cannot be cooked. The third was greasy mushroom soup, a rich broth made by boiling mushrooms with grease. Effect: continuous recovery, 10 health points every 10 minutes. Status: cannot be cooked. Lastly, deep-fried bugs, unappealing in appearance but extremely crispy. Effect: restores 1 health point. Status: cannot be cooked. He quickly realized the problem. All of them required fire. So he asked the system if there was anything he could make without it. Fortunately, there was one. Normal salad. Ingredients simply washed and mixed together. Bland, completely unremarkable. Restores 50 to 300 health points, no additional effects. Of course, that pissed him off. He couldn't see the point of it. Getting fire, however, wasn't a real problem. He just needed another master bee. The issue was, during his last feeding frenzy, he had already wiped out every beehive in the area. So he started thinking, what other monsters could produce fire? Then he remembered one. A creature with flames on its tail. A squirrel. A flaming tail squirrel. Our MC found one, and it smashed its head with his mace. The fire it produced was far stronger than the master bees. Now he had a new parasitic puppet, Fire Squirrel. Corpse Puppet. Fire Squirrel had 76% durability with skills, Flame Bullet, Agile Movement, and Self-Destruct. He ordered the squirrel to heat up a stone slab. It tensed the muscles in its tail and formed a fireball. Slime Mold watched from a distance. Then he crafted a spatula from partially decomposed wood. It was time to cook. He decided to try Chinese cuisine. He began. 2 hours later, he had lost 10 health points. He added the final touch, sprinkling salt collected from the saline alkali land. The pot suddenly glowed with golden light. It worked. He had done it. In total, he prepared 3 dishes. He didn't hold back and chugged it down in one gulp. The system announced that he had gained a massive amount of experience and that his energy had rapidly recovered. Then it reported it again, another surge of experience points. It also informed him that he had obtained beer inner cold resistance, which would last for 20 minutes. He noted how unbelievably rich the flavor was. It felt as if countless particles were dancing inside his body. This wasn't just ingredients being added together. It was something more. To him, their lives hadn't ended. They had transformed inside him. Their deaths gave birth to flavor, and that flavor returned with even greater value. At the moment they blended perfectly, they were no longer just plants, fish, or meat. They became something else entirely, like starlight within the dish. That, to him, was the true meaning of cooking. He looked completely satisfied after finishing the meal. And even though it took time to prepare, the experience gained far exceeded direct decomposition. Meanwhile, Fire Squirrel was clearly out of gas. Just look at it. 2 weeks later. After thoroughly exploring the area, he realized something. This entire region was now covered in his mold's hyphae. It had become his territory. The system marked it as Explored Slime Mold Territory. The upper left remained undeveloped. Above his territory lay the mangrove forest and low-tide mudflat. Beyond that was the saline alkali land, and the portal. He checked his status. He was now level 54. Title: Weak Creature Lord. Trait: Decomposer. His health was at 8,177 out of 8,177. He had 0.1 skill enhancement points remaining. His decomposition capacity was 877 out of 877. Decomposition remained at level 7. Pulsation was maxed. Poison resistance was maxed. Roar spray was maxed. Parasitic domination had reached level 8. Lightning resistance was at level 2. 1 kilometer away, his frog puppet was hopping around. He activated Slime Signal Relay. It was a method he developed for long-distance puppet control. He placed split bodies at intervals, turning them into signal-based stations. The split bodies would slowly lose health over time, but as long as they attached to trees and used decomposition for energy, they could last for a very long time. With enough base stations, his entire territory could be covered, allowing him to instantly control any puppet within range. But then, his frog puppet was suddenly crushed. He didn't even see what happened. A shadow passed, and Waji 3.0 was gone. He quickly shifted his consciousness into a bird puppet, and found the culprit. It was a berserk swamp bull. According to the encyclopedia, it had low intelligence, but extreme danger. Its body was covered in scales. It was immune to all magic below high tier. It possessed overwhelming strength, and when enraged, it released an aura comparable to high-level monsters. Threat level: high. Recommendation: avoid direct confrontation. At one of his slime-based stations, he shifted his consciousness again and saw it. The berserk swamp bull was charging straight toward him. The pressure alone proved it. This was a true high-level magic beast, but he wasn't weak anymore either. It had entered his territory, so it should be ready to be eaten. He activated Plasmatic Cannon. The berserk swamp bull responded with death pressure. The system reported that he had been hit. It explained that death pressure inflicted mental suppression through eye contact. The effect depended on the level gap between them. If the gap was too large, it could cause instant death. And in the next instant, the system declared he was dead. He lost 850 health points, and his split body was destroyed. The berserk swamp bull kept running. Slime mold chased after it. The bull noticed movement among the trees. It suddenly stopped. Slime mold had already spread his appendages. He activated Search. The berserk swamp bull stepped on one. Even though the bull had overwhelming physical strength, its low intelligence made it easier to deal with than the mud skipper. As long as he avoided its horns, he could slowly wear it down. He launched a barrage of attacks. It did nothing. The creature remained completely unharmed. He was shocked at how tough it was. The bull activated Death Pressure again. And instantly, he died. The beast glared forward. Then it charged with Skull Blast. Trees were sent flying. The ground shattered from the impact. But it didn't realize slime mold was already hiding in the bushes. An appendage quietly latched onto the bull from behind. Right at its weakest point, he sealed it completely and clamped down hard. No matter how tough the armor was, there was always one place left exposed, not the most honorable method, but the most effective. The infection had already begun. The creature went berserk, roaring in rage. It kicked and thrashed wildly. Slime mold activated water hammer. His appendage expanded from within, striking with pressure. The bull's movements became more frantic. He pushed deeper. In his mind, he calmly took control. Like a surgeon beginning a precise operation. Dang, poor swamp bull. This is why you don't ever mess with slime mold. Slime mold flowed through the anal canal. Fortunately for him, the bull had probably emptied its bowels before coming here, so he didn't run into any unpleasant obstacles along the way. He eventually reached the stomach and found partially digested grass floating inside. Acid began pouring into the stomach. He quickly formed several spikes and pierced them into the fleshy wall to avoid getting dissolved. The bull-like creature's stomach rumbled violently. Then it suddenly coughed up blood. At that moment, slime mold decided to crawl out through the wound inside the stomach. He spread his body like creeping vines and began searching through the creature. He examined every organ carefully, until he finally found the heart. He raised the mace and activated his plasmatic cannon skill straight into it. The attack instantly brought the giant bull crashing to the ground. The system notified him that he had killed a high-level monster far above his current level, rewarding him with a huge amount of experience. More notifications followed. Continuous decomposition was still happening, meaning he kept earning experience over time. According to the tactile feedback coming from the mycelium spread across his territory, the puppet bull must have charged in from the unexplored region. One of its horns was broken. He wondered if it had snapped during a mating battle, or if it was damage left behind by an even more terrifying monster. Either way, the evolutionary level of the monsters inside the swamp forest had far exceeded his expectations. Why was this happening? Could there really be some massive mana source hidden deeper inside? Still, he knew there was no point overthinking it right now. First, he needed to survive today. That bull's hide was ridiculously tough. He could only begin decomposing the body from the inside. Eventually, the system announced that the decomposition had succeeded. Swamp bull meat was classified as a high-level ingredient, and swamp bull hide was considered a high-level forging material. He chuckled to himself. As expected of a high-level monster, simply decomposing it already gave an absurd amount of experience. Then another thought crossed his mind. If cooking the leftover meat gave bonus experience too, wouldn't that be even better? He thanked the bull's skull for the meal. Meanwhile, at the portal, a bright light suddenly flashed. Several silhouettes slowly appeared within it. Moments later, the group stepped through. One of them was Jim Koo, a B-rank adventurer from the Silverleaf Guild. The teleportation gate that had remained sealed for 2 whole years had finally reopened. It had been a long time since he last visited the swamp forest for a mission. The woman beside him immediately complained that the dump area was overflowing with bugs. If Jim hadn't begged her to join the party, she said she never would have come here in the first place. Meanwhile, 3 women activated light soar wings and flew straight into the sky. They informed the group that they would head out first. Jim clicked his tongue and complained that the mages from the Blue Hat Guild were playing way too dirty. A man nearby laughed and replied that it couldn't be helped. Flight magic was an exclusive advantage of the Blue Hat Guild after all. More adventurers continued emerging from the portal. Lena Short, a B-rank shadow stalker from the Grey Rock Guild, told everyone to stop chatting and focus on figuring out how they were supposed to cross the Death Salt Lake. She warned them that anyone who fell into it would instantly dry up like human jerky. Jim told her not to worry because aside from her, he had invited another excellent helper as well. Lena immediately challenged this so-called great helper to show them what she could do. Her name was Shyoxi Green, a B-rank adventurer from the Silverleaf Guild. She shyly introduced herself and explained that she had only recently joined the guild as a rookie. She activated Flash Freeze. In an instant, a frozen path stretched across the swamp. One person scoffed that the level of magic was still inferior compared to the lapdogs from the Blue Hat Guild. Without hesitation, 2 men excitedly stepped onto the icy trail. Both of them had enhanced their boots for speed, and the frozen path gave them a massive boost. They loudly declared that they would be the first to gather enough life energy and claim the bounty reward. Shyoxi looked worried that they had already gotten a huge head start, but Jim calmly assured her it was fine. In his opinion, those 2 looked like inexperienced rookies who probably had no idea how dangerous the swamp forest really was. The 2 adventurers continued rushing forward at full speed. Then suddenly, massive monsters burst out from the swamp and swallowed them whole. Lena immediately asked what those creatures were. Meanwhile, Shyoxi trembled in fear. One adventurer observed that the creature must have absorbed the overflowing magic leaking from the portal, causing it to evolve into a three-headed form in an extremely short amount of time. It was a three-headed swamp snake, a high-level monster. And even worse, it was a Lord-class monster. Jim's expression immediately turned serious. He ordered everyone to listen carefully to his commands. Meanwhile, the swamp snake hatchling had finished roasting. It came out crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. A fresh, savory swamp aroma burst out with every bite. The system explained its effects. When consumed, it restores 400 health points and increases movement speed in swamp environments by 15% for 30 minutes. Slime Mold immediately ate it, but it was way too hot. As a result, his health points dropped by 40. Even Slime Mold wasn't immune to burning his mouth, apparently. After eating, he remembered it was finally time to deal with the silkworm armor. With the defense boost from the armor, he believed he would stand a much better chance against high-level monsters. After all, he couldn't rely on anal gouging strategies every single time. His meal was done. Now it was time for business. He leapt away. The system notified him that during the forging process, his consciousness would temporarily enter the slime mold space, leaving his main body exposed and vulnerable. Still, Slime Mold believed it would be fine. He already had mycelium early warning systems spread throughout the territory, and several parasitic puppets were guarding the area as well. With that, he entered the space. But the moment he arrived inside the slime mold space, he froze in surprise. The system instructed him to insert the forging materials. Thanks to the forging skill obtained from Gon, combined with his own decomposition abilities, he could now forge equipment directly inside the space without needing any external tools. He took out the armor. Then, after preparing all the materials, he confirmed the process. The system immediately issued a warning. If forging failed, every single material would disappear permanently. Still, the armor's durability had already dropped to 0 anyway, so even if it failed, there was nothing worth regretting. He pressed confirm, and the forging process began. The materials slowly merged together. Then suddenly, a bright light burst out. Slime Mold was caught off guard. A massive metal hand suddenly came out from him. Eventually, the entire armor was finally completed. The system announced that forging had succeeded. He had obtained Shield Force Armor Trash. Slime Mold was relieved that it worked. This armor could absorb the vast majority of physical damage, while also reducing the effects and damage of intermediate and lower-tier magic by 35%. Without hesitation, he entered the armor. He reshaped his body to match its internal structure, then he spread himself throughout the entire suit, completely filling it from the inside. It felt like operating a command center, a slime mold squadron. At the center was his main consciousness. Meanwhile, the remaining split bodies were assigned as separate units. Left hand, left foot, right hand, right foot. The armor slowly stood up, towering at 17 meters tall. The old armor had originally been 19 meters, so he guessed some material lost during the repair process must have slightly reduced the final size. Still, that hardly mattered. Since he didn't actually possess a human body inside the armor anyway, using domination on 5 split bodies to directly operate the suit was far easier than before. Then he decided to test it. He activated Cytoplasmic Fist. The armor's arm suddenly stretched outward at incredible speed and slammed into a nearby tree. A huge dent instantly formed on the trunk. Slime Mold was satisfied. Both the accuracy and destructive power were excellent. He recalled the arm back into place. Everything was improving. The house was bigger. The equipment was stronger. Things were finally starting to feel good for once. Then suddenly, the armor's left arm fell right off. He quickly realized the problem. Getting overly excited caused him to lose control over the consciousness of the split bodies. At the same time, he remembered that his parasitic domination skill was only level 7, meaning he could control a maximum of 7 puppets at once. But operating the armor alone already consumed 5 consciousness bodies. That meant while using the armor's parasitic mode, he could only control 2 additional parasitic puppets at the same time. Still, different puppet combinations could create entirely different tactical styles. Slime Mold realized he would need time to properly study and practice combat testing. If he could develop highly efficient tactical combinations, he would be able to react much faster in future battles. So he immediately decided to begin testing. Later on, a bird and a chameleon appeared beside him, but after looking at them, he couldn't help noticing how unbelievably weak these parasitic puppets looked compared to the giant armor. Meanwhile, the 3-headed swamp snake had finally fallen. Lena let out a relieved sigh, glad that they had successfully taken it down. But Jim immediately warned everyone not to lower their guard yet. He cautiously approached the corpse to finish it off completely. Then suddenly, a strange sound came from inside the monster's mouth. Moments later, a man wearing sunglasses crawled out from between the snake's jaws. He casually told Jim there was no need to finish it off because the creature was already completely dead. This man was Bacchus, an A-rank adventurer from the Holy Anthem Guild. As everyone watched in shock, Bacchus's damaged hand began regenerating. The flesh rapidly reformed, and within moments it had completely healed. Jim stared at him in disbelief. He genuinely thought Bacchus had been eaten alive by the monster. Bacchus immediately scolded them. According to him, people from small guilds were way too full of themselves. They had no experience fighting a three-headed swamp snake, yet they still recklessly took command of the situation. He pointed out that everyone could have died because of Jim's arrogance. Jim simply lowered his head and apologized. Bacchus then slowly raised his fist. Jim instinctively thought he was about to get punched, but instead, Bacchus was only handing him several recovery potions to restore his status. Bacchus then reminded everyone that if they encountered high-level monsters deeper inside the swamp forest, they should never try to fight head-on. Running away should always be the first option. He told them he hoped everyone would survive and safely return to the royal capital together. Hearing that, Jim realized that Uncle Bacchus only looked terrifying on the outside. In reality, he was surprisingly kind. Lena nodded in agreement and said he was absolutely right. At the end of the day, staying alive was what mattered most. Meanwhile, Sheoxi commented that the potions produced by the Holy Anthem Guild really were amazing. After drinking one, her entire body immediately felt full of energy. Bacchus, however, simply complained that the guildmaster had been overthinking things. In his opinion, personally sending him out for such a simple mission was completely unnecessary. Then, he activated Soul Collection. A white magic circle suddenly appeared beneath the corpse of the three-headed swamp snake. Moments later, the giant corpse vanished entirely. Bacchus frowned afterward and muttered to himself. He wondered why they couldn't simply use humans directly as sacrifices for the life candle materials instead. According to him, using monsters like this was far too troublesome. 3 armors moved around. The system notified him that martial arts talent had been automatically adapted. The armor shattered a tree with its mace. Slime Mold remarked that a human body was truly convenient. He had casually swung his weapon, yet it unleashed the power of a plasmatic cannon. He was already that powerful with just martial arts talent, so he could not even imagine how formidable Gon would become. He had basically adapted to operating the armor. Next, he only needed to expand into the unexplored area or head to the royal capital through the portal. He wondered if he was strong enough. If he was discovered, he would definitely be captured and dissected for research, and he had no intention of becoming a sacrifice. On the other hand, if he did not stop the church's plan soon, the world would be sacrificed, and he would not be able to escape it either. Suddenly, he sensed something through the network he had spread. The pressure made him wonder what was invading his territory. Lena reminded Jim about what he had said earlier, that he was familiar with the area. She stated that walking there felt strange. Jim replied that when he used to adventure with the captain's party, the captain taught him that going in that direction was the safest. However, in his memory, the ground had not been covered in so much yellow slime back then. But she noticed that it was not just on the ground, it was on the trees too. She wondered what exactly the yellow slime was. Jim did not know either. After all, the place had changed a lot since they were last there. He suspected that some kind of ecological change must have occurred. Speaking of which, he was worried about his newly bought boots since they were made from wild boar hide, a high-end haute couture edition. Suddenly, swamp leeches jumped at them. Lena used Swift Kill and eliminated them instantly while grumbling that they were disgusting. They did not notice the blade-legged centipede behind them. It suddenly leaped onto one of their teammates. Its legs dug into his neck, and in the blink of an eye, his head flew off. The man who witnessed it panicked and screamed that they were going to die. The blade-legged centipedes jumped at them, and they could not believe there were so many. They recognized the creatures and knew they were the most troublesome monsters in the area. Jim warned them not to let the centipedes crawl into their bodies. Another person warned that their carapaces were extremely hard and that ordinary attacks could not kill them. Lena called out to Sheoxi since she was only standing there frozen while they struggled. She told her to hurry up and help. She kept screaming that they were too disgusting. Jim told everyone to calm down. He used magic sword art Holy Flame Pure Land. A blaze of fire swept through the area. The blade-legged centipedes burned. The entire area turned to ash except for the spot where they were standing. Slime Mold realized that the intruders were humans. He monitored them. The slime network had also been burned away. Jim activated Soul Collection. The souls of the blade-legged centipedes were absorbed into his sword. Jim acknowledged that for some of them it was their first mission, but he reminded them that they were not on a training ground and were not there to play adventure games. He emphasized the reality that a single tiny mistake could cost them their lives. He shared that the soul quality of those low-ranking monsters was poor. They still needed to hunt higher level and more dangerous monsters, and he told them that if they did not want to die, they had to maintain a sense of caution. Funnily enough, after his grand speech, a frog kicked him in the face. Then it jumped away. He was completely stunned. When the frog landed on the ground, it taunted him even more. He could not believe that a stinking swamp frog dared to kick him in the face. He vowed to kill it. Lena reminded him that he had just told everyone to stay calm. He used Fire Slash, but the frog dodged it. The frog was Slime Mold's puppet, and he used it to test the strength of those humans. He used Tongue Fist, causing the frog's tongue to slap Jim across the cheek. This only made Jim even angrier. He cursed at it and swore that he would kill it. Lena chased after him and called him an idiot. She reminded him not to let it get under his skin. Shoxy called out to them. Slime Mold's spider puppet watched the humans from a tree. Then it released a cluster of eggs, and their contents scattered everywhere. The humans were caught in the sticky liquid. One man complained that he could not move. He warned everyone that no matter what happened, they must not fall down. Xiaoxi recognized the spider silk of a jungle demon spider. She was about to use her ice magic, but a tongue wrapped around her staff. She was shocked that her staff had been snatched away. A chameleon had taken it, and Xiaoxi slipped and fell. Meanwhile, Jim continued chasing the frog. Suddenly, a mace flew toward him. Jim blocked it with his sword. Slime Mold pulled the mace back, and his body began to bubble. Jim looked disgusted. He could not believe that those yellow sticky blobs were monsters, and they even knew how to use weapons. He yelled at his squad to prepare for battle. It looked like an amorphous aggregate species similar to a slime. He ordered them to enchant their weapons with magic. But then, out of nowhere, a knight jumped down and told them to be careful, and he punched the slime. He told them that these yellow monsters could devour magic to become stronger. Since they could only consume magic, they could only use physical attacks. He asked if anyone was hurt. Lena looked at the yellow slimes with concern and noticed that they seemed to be getting angry. She told Jim about it. Jim told her not to be afraid since he could still use his holy flame 2 more times. The knight screamed, "Retreat!" and the web of slimes moved. The group was surprised that they actually retreated. The armored knight asked the group if they could understand what he was saying. Jim asked what he meant and demanded to know who he was. Slime Mold realized that they could really understand what he was saying. He was delighted that he could finally communicate with beings from another world. He had the encyclopedia. It had synced with him through Gon's system and contained the languages of that world. Because of his slime body's flexibility, he was able to simulate the structure of vocal cords. As a result, he could speak. Slime Mold also learned that by slightly adjusting the shape of his simulated vocal cords, he could produce different voices. He could imitate a mature woman, a domineering CEO, a little boy, and a little girl. Lena became wary of him as she pointed out that the portal to the swamp forest had only recently opened and that they were the first group to enter. She asked which guild he belonged to. Slime Mold hesitated before saying that he was from the 100-style guild. He explained that he had accepted a secret mission to clear out the yellow slimes in the area. Internally, he knew this question was beyond his knowledge because he only knew about Gon's 100-style guild and the unnamed Hat Guild that had hunted Gon before. The woman's expression turned cold. She informed him that the 100-style guild had already betrayed the royal capital. The church had ordered that anyone claiming to be from the 100-style guild was a cultist. She attacked him with swift kill. Slime Mold ducked to avoid the attack. He was shocked by what he had just heard. She continued trying to slash him, but he dodged every strike. He threw his mace at her and yelled for her to stop. She observed that despite wearing a warrior's equipment, his body was incredibly soft and agile. Even her swift kill could not land a single hit. Jim stated that after that bastard Gon made a contract with a demon, they had become nothing more than the scum of the human race. Slime Mold was confused by what he was talking about. Slime Mold protested that he had just helped them drive away the yellow slimes. Instead of receiving thanks, he pointed out how unreasonable it was that they were trying to kill him. Jim was shocked when Slime Mold blocked his full-powered slash with one hand, even though his sword had been forged by a master craftsman. He was slammed into a tree when Slime Mold used a plasmatic cannon. Slime Mold was amazed by martial arts talent. In his armored state, he could easily use a plasmatic cannon with one hand. Lena wrapped her legs around his neck and unleashed Shadow Kill. She stabbed him in the eye while telling him to die for hurting Jim. Jim told her to stop. He said they might be able to get him more information about the other cultists from him, so he wanted to keep him alive. Lena sighed and explained that seeing Jim get hurt had made her so angry that she had accidentally killed him. Jim blushed and asked why she was suddenly so worried about him. Lena became flustered and denied it. She insisted that she had misspoken. He knew she still liked him. He claimed that she had rejected him before and had no choice but to leave the Silverleaf Guild because her master had forced her to. She recalled her master's words, that to become an outstanding assassin, one had to abandon all emotions. Jim asked if she would be willing to leave the royal capital with him after they saved enough money. He suggested giving up their identities as adventurers and living normal lives instead. Lena stuttered as she admitted that if she could stay with him forever, she would be willing to do it. Slime Mold was annoyed that they were already treating him as if he were dead. However, he realized that the guild founded by Gon had been branded as a demonic cult. The church had completely brainwashed these people. He suddenly grabbed her, and she stared at him in shock. He threw her into the air. Lena was dumbfounded when she realized that his suit had been pierced, yet he was still alive. Slime Mold told them that since they could not talk things out peacefully, he had decided to beat them up first. Jim asked Lena if she was all right. Lena assured him that she was fine. She told him that the opponent had probably gained the power of a demon as well. Slime Mold yelled that they had all been completely deceived by the church. Internally, he thought that based on everything he had learned so far, he already possessed considerable strength. Dealing with ordinary human adventurers was not a problem for him. Jim dismissed his words as nonsense. He declared that this time, he would seriously eliminate him. He activated Holy Flame to obliterate all evil. Slime Mold sighed as he pulled the daggers from his eyes. He admitted that he had originally not wanted to kill them. He warned them not to force him into becoming the villain. The system notified him that the martial arts talent, Raider, had been activated. Meanwhile, some people electrocuted the mud skippers. 3 girls had done it, and the lead mage used Soul Collection. The brown-haired woman informed Fei Fei, a B-rank adventurer of the Blue Hat Guild, that there was an abnormal magical signature coming from the left. Fei Fei stated that after killing so many mud skippers, the leader had finally come out. It splashed mud, then it leaped out. It looked like the one that our MC fought last time. But this guy still has its fin, so it's not the same mud skipper. At this point, I really don't want to see this monster's face ever again. But then, a young woman named Anita, Merlin's last disciple and a C-rank adventurer of the Blue Hat Guild, stepped forward to cast wind magic. Anita gathered her energy. But before she could finish casting her spell, the mud skipper struck her head and broke her neck. With her neck snapped, she died instantly. Fei Fei yelled at everyone not to freeze up and to counterattack immediately. She began preparing an intermediate lightning spell. Lightning struck the mud. She cursed under her breath. She realized that the creature had incredible mana perception and moved extremely fast through the mud. The brown-haired woman replied that the mud skipper tribe had always believed that 2 tigers could not share one mountain. She could not understand how 2 leaders had appeared. Fei Fei, growing irritated, replied that it did not matter how many leaders there were because the warriors thought they were still nothing more than low-level monsters. She told Luoluo, the brown-haired woman, to keep the other one occupied while she gathered mana to blast the mud skippers. The mud skipper sensed the attack and created a wall of mud to defend itself. The energy still traveled through its body. Fei Fei clicked her tongue. She said that even if it had blocked the attack, Arc of the Scarlet Bolt could still paralyze it. A wall of mud suddenly rose between the 2 women. Fei Fei shouted at Luoluo in frustration since she could not even keep a single mud skipper leader occupied. She was shocked. The mud skipper appeared beneath her and grabbed both of her legs. She was surprised to discover that there was actually a 3rd one. Luoluo rushed over to save her, but Fei Fei had already sunk into the mud, and the mud skippers created a triple mire vortex around her. Those 3 mud skippers worked together. She tried to use a magic shield. She quickly realized that the mud skipper leaders were fighting as a team. Their intelligence had clearly evolved, making the situation far stranger than expected. If this continued, she knew she would not be able to hold out much longer. She decided to retreat and share the information with Guildmaster Lucia. She used Light Soar Wings. She looked down to check on the mud skippers, and she failed to notice that one had jumped behind her. It bit off her head, and immediately dove back beneath the mud. The muddy area was left littered with the bones of different creatures. Eventually, Feifei woke up. She wondered where she was. When she looked up, her expression darkened. She saw half of Luoluo's body inside the mouth of a gigantic mud skipper. Meanwhile, the other 3 mud skippers made cheering noises. The mud skipper king was level 69. It accused her of killing many of its children. Feifei was shocked, first because of its size, and second, because it could talk. She realized that it might be a super dangerous species with awakened intelligence, just like those recorded in magical literature. They could not understand how such a creature had appeared in the swamp forest. The Mud Skipper King declared that it was starving and could never get full. It ordered its followers to hunt more humans and bring them back to their king. The Mud Skippers acknowledged the order, and they set out. And if we look closely, this guy right here was our powerful villain last time. Just look at that shiny head. God damn! Anyway, the Mud Skipper King asked Feifei if she had seen a yellow monster. Feifei tried to escape. She did not answer, so it asked if she could not understand human speech. Feifei weakly muttered, "Help." The Mud Skipper King simply crushed her to death. Then it ate her. It muttered that the more it thought about it, the angrier it became. It stated that the heavy rain had saved its life. It continued to express its anger. Suddenly, its body started glowing. The light passed through the holes in the mud and shot into the sky. Did Mud Skipper Boss just evolve? At the same time, Bacchus, who was on the other side of the forest, noticed it. He sensed a powerful aura of evolution. He knew that the source was worth investigating. But before that, he had to deal with the 2 cockatrices first. The bird heads tried to devour him at the same time, but he leaped away. The serpent heads watched him. One of them moved and bit his leg. His reaction remained calm. He cut off the snakehead. His leg turned to stone. He quickly realized that it had petrifying venom. The red bird head unleashed pseudo-dragon breath, while the other used stone splash. Their attacks combined. Bacchus wondered why the monsters in the area felt far more troublesome than before. The attack spread out as it struck a defensive barrier. He knew that based on the initial assessment, after the original Lord of the Swamp Forest, the 9-headed Dragon King, Kidoyalawa, fell. Its origin soul power had been evenly distributed among all the monsters in the region. The cockatrices watched him. His arms transformed into stone shields, protecting him from the attack. But this time, he had to get serious. Back to our MC. Slime Mold noticed the powerful evolution light coming from the direction of the mudflats. He wondered what had happened over there. He considered taking a look, but he quickly discarded the idea since he had already developed a trauma toward that place. Jim and Lena were injured and tied up. Jim cursed at him and threatened that the Silverleaf Pavilion Guild would hunt him to the ends of the earth if anything happened to them. Lena realized they had been tricked. When she first saw him using a hammer, she had assumed he was nothing more than a clumsy warrior. She never expected his shadow kill to be so powerful. To her shock, it was exactly the same technique her master had taught her. Then, everything started to make sense. Her master had once learned from Gon, the guild master of the 100-style guild. No one else knew that except her. Since the knight came from the 100-style guild, it was not surprising that he knew the same techniques. Even so, she found it unbelievable that he could dual class as both a warrior and a raider. It was simply too ridiculous. Slime Mold admitted that he had not planned to hurt them in the beginning, but now his plans were a mess. He repeated himself once again. He insisted that Gon was not a traitor to humanity. He claimed that they were the ones who had been brainwashed by the Holy See. He had not expected the Holy See to go to such extremes. If what he had learned was true, then even the young women who had come looking for Brother Gon before, if they were still alive, would probably be captured and executed by the Holy See once they returned. He frowned as he thought about his situation. His original plan had been to use the identity of the 100-style guild to gather information. Instead, he had discovered that the Holy See had already declared the 100-style guild public enemies. Now that his identity had been exposed, they would see him as no different from a wanted criminal. Even if he hid his identity again, these people already knew who he was. His options were simple: kill them or spare them. As he thought about the villain route, he realized that silencing them would not only allow him to hide his identity again, but by decomposing their corpses, he could also gain a massive amount of experience. It would be far more efficient than constantly wandering through the wilderness. But once he crossed that line, there would be no turning back. It would mean completely abandoning his humanity. He reminded himself that he needed to become stronger by any means necessary, Only then could he destroy the Holy See and stop their plan to sacrifice all life. Still, he hesitated. Even though he had transmigrated into this world, these were not characters in a game. They were living people, even if they had been brainwashed by the Holy See. On the other hand, if he did not kill them, he would have to let them go. He believed that love and truth were eternal and unchanging. As long as he acted with goodwill, he believed they would eventually understand. By choosing this path, he could hold on to the bottom line of what it meant to be human. Although he had already grown used to his skeleton identity, his soul had always been human. If he constantly thought about killing people and treated reality like a game, then his 9 years of compulsory education before transmigrating into this world would mean nothing. He stood at a crossroads. To kill or not to kill, that was the question. He let out an annoyed sigh. Killing people and decomposing their corpses would indeed make him stronger much faster. However, after inheriting Gon's will, he knew he should not kill indiscriminately. Otherwise, if dual cultivation could make someone stronger, Gon would have gone around violating people everywhere. Suddenly, arrows flew toward him. He stepped back to avoid them. Backup for Lena and Jim had arrived. A man holding a spear asked who the armored knight was. Slime Mold was surprised. He wondered where his puppets had gone. Apparently, they had been frozen in ice. One of the adventurers handed Jim a potion. He said he still had some of the potions Bacchus had given them and told Jim to drink one. Jim thanked him. Lena and Jim were untied. Jim urged everyone to join forces and take down the armored knight together. Slime Mold expressed that he truly did not want to kill anyone, but they were leaving him with no choice. He unleashed death pressure. The oppressive aura terrified them. One of them questioned how they were supposed to defeat someone like that. Slime Mold had no choice but to play along until the end. He decided to test the skill he had obtained from the bull. It was the perfect opportunity to measure the gap between his current strength and that of humans. The other adventurers immediately turned and ran. Jim was shocked. He asked if they were really running away like that. Sheoxi asked what they should do now. Jim clicked his tongue. He said it did not matter even if they stayed since they would not be much help anyway. He would take the front, while Lena looked for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Sheoxi was to find the right moment to cast her magic. Lena was surprised that he was trying to look cool when the enemy's strength was clearly far beyond theirs. She urged Jim to run. Suddenly, he grabbed Sheoxi. He told her not to space out and to keep up with them. Lena felt jealous. Meanwhile, Slime Mold was surprised that they were running away. He panicked because he had not even decided what to do with them yet. If they escaped, news of his identity would reach the royal capital, and things would only get worse. He was annoyed that his morals kept holding him back. He chased after them while shouting for them to stop so they could have a proper conversation. Jim panicked when he realized they were being chased. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed throughout the forest. Bacchus could not believe that a mere intermediate magic beast had become that strong. He was astonished by the changes in the swamp forest. The red cockatrice tried to kick him. His arms grew larger as he activated partial sanctified fall at 70%. When he struck the cockatrice with his technique, Holy Hammer, half of its body exploded. The other cockatrice sneaked behind him. He immediately turned around. It used Stare. Its eyes were reflected in Bacchus's sunglasses. It was terrified and immediately ran away. He realized that the Earth attribute Snake Secretary Bird's Stare also carried a petrification effect. His body had turned to stone except for his head. He strengthened his muscles and broke free. The antibodies inside his body were already enough to cure the effect. He did not even need to drink a potion. The Snake Secretary Bird kept running. But Bacchus suddenly appeared behind it. With both hands, he crushed its head to death. Then he threw the headless body away. After that, he used Soul Collection. Just then, someone called out to him. He asked why they had come back. The adventurers reported to Senior Bacchus that the monsters ahead seemed to be coordinating their attacks. More importantly, a mysterious man in armor was also there. Just looking at him made them shudder. They admitted they were no match for him at all. Bacchus asked why they had come back. He questioned whether losing meant they could simply run away. The adventurers trembled in fear. They explained that the mission had already gone far beyond their expectations. They were willing to pay the penalty for breaking their contract with the Holy Anthem Guild. Bacchus told them it was fine and instructed them to leave. He added that they had already paid the penalty. One of the men asked when that happened. Bacchus told them it happened when they drank his potion. He snapped his fingers, activating the potion in their bloodstreams. The adventurers screamed in agony as blood poured from their mouths and eyes. Then, Bacchus collected their souls. Bacchus observed that while their strength was lacking, the quality of their souls was still far better than those of low-intelligence monsters. Meanwhile, someone activated an ice crystal portal. Jim, Shioxi, and Lena passed through it. They had teleported 3 times, so they believed their enemy could no longer find them, but Slime Mold still found them. As long as they remained within his mycelium range, escape was impossible. Still, he wanted to make one final attempt to communicate with them. He hoped they would cooperate willingly this time. The armored man appeared. Lena panicked. She couldn't believe he could accurately track their position every single time. Hyoxi used Ice Gatling. Slime Mold realized that although it was magic, once a normal spell was cast, it eventually became a purely physical attack. Because of that, his clothes could block it completely. Shioxi panicked when she saw that her attack had no effect on him at all. Meanwhile, Lena activated the leaf her master had given her. It was said to contain the aura of an ultra-high-tier earth gem. Once activated, it could block out the sky and sun, sealing the target inside. At the same time, the leaf was also a token of love from her master. Although it was extremely precious, Lena used it only in situations like this. The leaf landed on the armor's forehead. Suddenly, Slime Mold received a notification that his health points were continuously decreasing. The encyclopedia revealed that this was the ultra-high-tier effect of the Earth Gem. One of the Earth Gem's main attributes was granting vitality to plants, so the leaf kept multiplying and absorbed Jim's life force as nutrients. It recommended using fire magic to burn it away completely. Slime Mold was stunned. He cursed because there was no way he knew fire magic. But then, he suddenly unleashed Fireball. The leaves covering him were burned away. The ice magic from earlier gave Slime Mold a new idea. If magic could transform into matter, then matter could also transform into magic. He realized that the parasitic puppet could serve as the medium for that transformation. He injected cytoplasm into a puppet, allowing it to release magic. Following that logic, as long as he captured a parasitic puppet capable of using high-tier magic, he should theoretically be able to cast any spell he wanted. He noticed that they had run away. Luckily, he accidentally stepped on a slime. His priority was capturing them first. He decided not to overthink it and simply used the Slime Mold's main body to take action. He emerged from the armor. Then, he began spreading his body. But he suddenly stopped. The tactile feedback from his mycelium had suddenly disappeared in that location. It ended at the edge of an area he had never explored before. Our MC wondered why he had never gone there. Every time his mycelium spread into that region, it quickly underwent apoptosis. As a slime mold, his instincts warned him that something extremely dangerous lay ahead. He wondered if he should just forget about it. In the end, he decided to take things slow and steady instead. Meanwhile, Jim remarked that the swamp forest had completely changed compared to 2 years ago. Lena agreed. It used to be a popular training ground for beginners, but under the current circumstances, they would need an A-rank adventurer to lead the team. Jim suggested that they rest for a while. Thanks to Lena's noble phantom ceiling, they believed they had finally shaken off their pursuer. Lena sighed and complained that it was the silver leaf her master had given her. It was not only a powerful sealing tool, but also something with great sentimental value. Suddenly, she felt something drip onto her head. When they looked up, they were terrified by what they saw. It was a massive worm with several tentacles around its mouth. She warned everyone not to move because it was a giant earthworm. Since it had no eyes, it located its targets through vibrations. But Jim noticed something strange. A giant earthworm was usually only 3 or 4 meters long. They couldn't understand how this one had grown to such an enormous size. Someone used holy hammer on it, and green blood sprayed everywhere. The group immediately closed their eyes and turned away. The one who defeated it was Bacchus. He asked the 3 if they were trying to run away. Jim was relieved to see Senior Bacchus. He quickly explained that they had been attacked by a mysterious man in armor. Before he could finish, Bacchus coldly demanded that he answer his question. Jim was taken aback. Bacchus asked if they had been planning to run away. He urged them to tell the truth. Jim immediately denied it. He insisted that their earlier retreat was only due to carelessness. As long as they came up with a new battle plan, they would definitely win next time. He added that, with Senior Bacchus there, they had nothing to fear. Bacchus simply acknowledged his answer. He snapped his fingers. Jim exclaimed that his fatigue was rapidly disappearing, while his magic power was quickly recovering. Lena was confused because the effects of their potion should have expired long ago. Bacchus explained that the drink he had given them was a special potion developed by the Holy Anthem Guild. It activated their own life energy, producing a 2-stage effect. Jim admitted that he didn't fully understand it, but he found it amazing. He urged Bacchus to hurry and capture the mysterious man, believing him to be a remnant of Gon's traitorous guild. Bacchus replied that there was no need. He knew that a year ago, 3 adventurers who remained loyal to Gon had applied to enter the swamp forest in search of his whereabouts. At the time, the church had not yet fully condemned the 100 Martial Guild, so they approved the request. Bacchus declared that collecting enough life energy for the professor was their highest priority on this expedition. He believed the mysterious armored man was probably one of the 3 adventurers who had remained loyal to Gon. In his eyes, they had always been third-rate individuals. Even if they had grown stronger over the past 2 years, they would at most have the strength of an A-rank adventurer, which was nothing to worry about. He warned everyone that the path ahead would be far more dangerous and told them to stay close to him. The group was delighted, saying that was exactly what they had hoped for. Lena, however, worried about the others who had been separated from them. She feared they might have also been attacked by the armored man. Jim told her not to worry. He reminded her that their magic communicators were cut off. Since they had managed to lure the armored man away for so long, he assumed the others had probably already taken the chance to return to the royal capital. They quietly followed Bacchus. They were shocked when the ground began to shake. Jim thought it was an earthquake, but Bacchus told him that wasn't the case. They had simply arrived at the location. It was the place with the richest life energy in the entire swamp forest. The sea was filled with monsters fighting across its surface. It was a battle between different species. Flying creatures, sea creatures, and insects of all sizes and shapes clashed together. Every one of them looked fierce. Jim was stunned to learn that the swamp forest had a place like that. Lena asked if all of them were high-level monsters. A massive crocodile chased after a bull-like creature. It was about to be eaten. Bacchus explained that the creatures were essentially elite monsters, far above high-level ones. He realized that the entire ecosystem of the swamp forest was undergoing an ecological reset. He explained that 2 years ago, the human trader Gon had entered the swamp forest in search of demonic power, hoping to destroy the world. To stop his evil plan, the lord of the swamp forest at the time, the 9-headed dragon king Yahello, formed an alliance with the church. Together with the 7 holy knights, he vowed to eliminate Gon within the swamp. Although Gon was eventually defeated, Yahello also perished in the battle. The church likewise lost 2 holy knights. Bacchus sighed and quoted an old saying, "When a whale falls, all things flourish." After Yahello's death, the origin soul power he had accumulated over thousands of years was released back into the land. That ecological reset was what caused the current life explosion they were witnessing. A 2-tailed tiger rested quietly with its cub when a gentle green light suddenly struck them. Bacchus continued, explaining that even low-level monsters could evolve and awaken intelligence as long as they absorbed enough vitality. Those who did could even gain the qualifications to compete for the title of Lord of the Swamp Forest. Finally, Bacchus explained that the place before them was likely the main battlefield where Gon and Yahello had fought. The dense magical power left behind had attracted powerful monsters from all over the swamp. Xiaoxi finally understood what was happening. Bacchus told them to stop spacing out and get to work. Bacchus explained that the giant earthworm they had encountered earlier was actually at the very bottom of the food chain in that area. The adventurers were horrified. Jim said that if a monster at that level was at the bottom, he couldn't imagine how they were supposed to fight the creatures above it. More giant earthworms attacked them. Bacchus told them not to be afraid. If they had to fight, then they would fight to the very end. With their life energy activated, they were far stronger than before. He effortlessly chopped one of the giant earthworms in half. Jim attacked the other giant earthworm and realized that his slashes had become stronger. Lena kicked the other one. Xiaoxi struck her target with ice crystals. She managed to take one down. Lena said that power was surging through their bodies, and she didn't feel tired at all. Bacchus said that this was only the beginning. He believed humanity would become even more perfect in the future. That, he claimed, was the church's ultimate goal. Then, he collected the soul. A massive insect suddenly approached them. Xiaoxi warned everyone that a dragonfly was coming. It used violent suction, pulling them into its mouth along with the giant earthworms. Suddenly, it was chopped into pieces. Everyone fell to the ground. Bacchus admitted that an opponent at this level required him to fight with everything he had. Still, he assured everyone that as long as he was there, they had nothing to fear. He retracted several arms that had branched out from his main arm. Lena quietly whispered to Jim that Senior Bacchus's arm looked strange. Jim was also horrified. He awkwardly replied that it was probably some kind of high-level transformation magic and told her not to think too much about it. Bacchus apologized for talking so much. He explained that he tended to become talkative whenever he grew familiar with someone and asked them not to mind his nagging. The adventurers denied that, saying Bacchus had not only shared his knowledge with them, but also saved their lives many times. Bacchus revealed that he was coordinating the Holy Anthem Guild's mission for this trip. Since it also served as an S-rank evaluation, he was taking it extremely seriously. He urged everyone to cooperate and not cause trouble. As long as they stayed back and watched, he was confident he could bring them safely back to the royal capital. Xiaoxi, however, remained worried. She insisted that they should turn back because their opponent was an elite-level monster. Even after becoming stronger, she believed they still stood no chance against it. Bacchus glared at her and raised his voice as he asked if she wanted to run. Bacchus snapped his fingers. Xiaoxi stared at him in confusion. Bacchus was confused when they showed no reaction at all. He quickly grew annoyed. Had the potion's effect worn off? That should have been impossible. Once someone was infected with the sanctified fall factor, it remained inside their body forever. Something was clearly wrong, so he decided to report it to the guildmaster. To him, dying in battle was acceptable. Surrendering was not. He charged straight toward Xiaoxi, but Jim stepped in and blocked his attack. Jim told him he must have misunderstood something. The fifth rule of the church was to run if they could not win because staying alive always came first. Had he forgotten? Bacchus replied that human lives were more valuable than any resource, but they were no longer in the reserve phase. It was time for the consumption phase, so there was no longer any need to conserve them. He knocked Jim back. Then he cut Xiaoxi down. Later that day, Slime Mold decided not to continue and returned to his own territory. There, he discovered a pile of clothes and equipment that seemed to belong to the other adventurers who had fled earlier. Yet somehow they had all been reduced to bones without leaving a single sign of a struggle. Suddenly, someone began clapping. The creature was thrilled to have finally found him. It called Slime Mold a little yellow bastard. Slime Mold demanded to know who he was. The creature told him that hiding inside the armor would not fool him. This time, he would never let Slime Mold escape again. Slime Mold wondered if they had met before. The figure looked like a humanoid monster, making him suspect that it had killed all the human adventurers. The Mudskipper King removed his coral crown and revealed his bald head, expecting Slime Mold to recognize him. The moment he saw that shiny head, Slime Mold finally remembered him. It was the Mudskipper King. But how had he transformed into something like that? Then our boy burst out laughing and mocked him for being bald. Needless to say, the Mudskipper King did not find it funny. Without wasting another second, he formed a giant hand from the mud and grabbed Slime Mold. He declared that he had evolved once again, and his strength was now on a completely different level. The massive mud hand crushed Slime Mold in its grip, but Slime Mold punched through it and declared that he had gotten stronger too. The moment he broke free, he fired the plasmatic cannon, but the Mudskipper King stopped the blast with a mud wall. Slime Mold used mycelium transport and instantly appeared behind him. Then he blasted him with a fireball. Slime Mold knew the Mudskipper King had not expected him to use fire magic. He declared that he would keep attacking until the system displayed "kill successful." Just then, the system warned him about the durability of one of his puppets, the fire birch mouse. He checked it and saw that it was completely broken. Still, that fireball had been incredibly powerful. Even if the Mudskipper King had survived, Slime Mold expected him to be covered in severe burns. The fire squirrel had also proven surprisingly useful, so he decided to restock one later. But when the mud wall crumbled, he was confused to find that the fish was nowhere to be seen. Right beneath him, the Mudskipper King activated Swamp Flow Art. A massive wave of mud surged up and swallowed Slime Mold. In an instant, his entire body was buried. Then he plunged into a deep pit. Slime Mold suddenly remembered that mudskippers were excellent at digging holes. Still, creating such a huge underground cave in such a short time was impressive. He had to admit that the Mudskipper King's mud control skills had improved quite a bit. The Mudskipper King followed up with Earth Spike. Several spikes struck Slime Mold's body. However, the system reported that the Shock Force armor's durability had only dropped to 99.97%. The Mudskipper King believed he had the advantage since they were fighting on his home turf. But without warning, the armor suddenly exploded apart. The Mudskipper King stared in shock. The armor's limbs disconnected from its body and began moving on their own. Then every piece charged straight toward the Mudskipper King. The Mudskipper King screamed at them to stay back before unleashing Mudshot. Thick clumps of mud covered the armor. Within seconds, they completely swallowed it. Slime Mold quickly launched the armor's head away. The Mudskipper King caught it with both hands. That move was called Water Hammer. The helmet slipped through the Mudskipper King's hands and slammed straight into his face. Meanwhile, Slime Mold shook the mud off the armor's remaining parts. Then he pulled every piece back together. The moment the armor reassembled, he kicked the Mudskipper King right in the groin. The pain nearly made the Mudskipper King collapse. Slime Mold had concentrated most of his slime into his foot before delivering the kick. He realized that the martial arts talent he had inherited from Gon was truly incredible. Not only could he master any weapon, but by combining that talent with the liquid body technique, he could perform smooth and natural moves through pure reflex. Slime Mold declared that he had come to avenge Master B, Waji, Viji, Xiaotun, and everyone else. He unleashed a water hammer punch and smashed the Mudskipper King in the face. Then he followed it with a rapid barrage of punches. The force sent the Mudskipper King sliding across the cave. The Mudskipper King argued that they were all monsters, and hunting each other was simply part of survival. So why did Slime Mold still hold such a deep grudge? He then scoffed at Slime Mold for acting naive, despite already gaining sentience. Fortunately, Slime Mold's slimy skin max deflected the force of the attacks, reducing physical damage by 50 to 70% and fire attribute damage by 20%. Slime Mold asked what he was talking about. The Mudskipper King told him to stop pretending. The old king was dead, and everyone had already awakened their sentience. If they wanted to become the new king, they had no choice but to devour one another. He declared that after absorbing Slime Mold, he would hunt down the other so-called talented monsters. He would prove that even mudskippers could rule the swamp instead of letting dragons and other high-level races dominate it. He activated Swamp Flow art, explaining that the former king had created the technique to defeat powerful monsters from high-level races. In an instant, the entire area transformed into a massive swamp. Then he told Slime Mold to witness the former king's first and strongest move, the Mire Giant Fish. The Mudskipper King admitted that Slime Mold's evolution speed was frighteningly fast. However, the moment he was dragged into that place, the battle was already over. Inside the Mire domain, the king's strength and recovery greatly increased, making the Mire Giant Fish nearly indestructible. But Slime Mold told him that he had gotten everything backward. The Mudskipper King was the one who had stepped into his territory. Had he seriously not noticed yet? The Mudskipper King looked down in shock and saw slime molds spreading throughout the mud. Slime Mold called out to the children he had scattered underground, ordering them to return to his body. He used Converge. The Mudskipper King could not believe it. Slime Mold was only a low-level monster, yet he had gathered such overwhelming power. Slime Mold admitted that it was difficult to explain. All he could say was that the Mudskipper King's greatest mistake was treating him like an ordinary low-level monster. As the merging succeeded, the system continuously notified Slime Mold that his level was rising. Slime Mold always left behind a clone as a backup. If anything went wrong, he could transfer his consciousness into it. Back then, he had secretly spat out a tiny clone underground as a life-saving measure. However, he never needed it, and eventually forgot it even existed. Despite being forgotten, the clone continued operating on its own. In automatic mode, it explored the underground, absorbed more cytoplasm, and steadily grew stronger. By the time Slime Mold reconnected with it, the clone had already reached level 40. Even he was shocked by its growth. After that, he decided to keep exploring the surface with his main body. Meanwhile, his underground clone would remain hidden as both a life-saving backup and a secret trump card. By now, its slime mold had already spread across every inch of the land. The Mudskipper King thought he had surrounded Slime Mold, but it was actually the other way around. Slime Mold's enormous body now towered over him. The Mudskipper King could not believe that a low-level monster had undergone such a terrifying transformation. Just what kind of background did Slime Mold truly have? Trusting his instincts, he immediately turned and ran. Nothing was more important than staying alive. Slime Mold watched him flee. the Mudskipper King activated Earth Swim, but Slime Mold warned him that there was no escape. Meanwhile, Jim and Lena were desperately running away. Jim was determined to expose all of Bacchus's evil deeds to the public. Behind them, Bacchus snapped his fingers. Lena suddenly collapsed. Disgusting tentacles burst from her mouth. Jim stared at her in horror. Bacchus told them that escaping was forbidden, so they should stop resisting and obey him. He reached for Jim with both hands, but Jim quickly stepped back. Then Bacchus snapped his fingers again. Tentacles immediately began crawling out of Jim's mouth. He desperately struggled to breathe. Bacchus believed that once he gathered enough lives, he could advance to S rank, earn the chance to ascend and become a new human. With less than a year remaining before the final chapter, he could disguise their deaths as mission accidents, and the guildmaster would never suspect a thing. But Jim vowed that he would never let Bacchus succeed. Then he activated Sacred Flame Possession. Jim admitted that Bacchus had always annoyed him by acting so high and mighty when they were all just humans. He demanded to know what gave people like him the right to look down on the lives of others. Then Jim unleashed the Holy Flame Fist. Bacchus realized that Jim was using the flames to suppress the sanctified fall factor. This was no ordinary fire magic. It was the legendary Holy Flame, born from a scorching soul. However, Bacchus easily swatted the attack aside. He explained that he did not look down on Jim. He simply believed that all life in that world was naturally divided into ranks. For example, they had entered the swamp to hunt monsters because they believed they were superior to them. In a way, humans were also monsters. Still, Jim's soul power had far exceeded Bacchus's expectations. Unfortunately, he was still too weak. Anger and loud shouting alone would never make him Bacchus's equal. Jim knew that defeating Bacchus was impossible, but he was satisfied as long as he could cause him some trouble. Suddenly, hordes of monsters came charging toward them. Bacchus realized that Jim's true goal had been to use his mana to attract the elite monsters. However, he simply remarked that Jim had saved him a great deal of hunting time. Jim had always known that Bacchus was far stronger than the elite monsters. However, the creatures in that area were constantly competing and devouring one another, so Jim used his mana as the first layer of bait and the elite monsters as the second, and somehow his plan had worked. Bacchus effortlessly cut down the approaching monsters, but then the lord of the area and an offspring of the previous king appeared. One of them was a lord-level monster, the six-headed swamp dragon. As Jim began losing consciousness, he told Bacchus to die inside the mouths of the lower life forms he looked down on. The six-headed swamp dragon immediately charged. Bacchus admitted that things had become somewhat challenging. His sanctified fall had already reached 90%. But in the blink of an eye, he sliced off several of the swamp dragon's heads, then he chopped its massive body into pieces. However, Bacchus was about to receive a nasty surprise. A red dragon suddenly appeared. She was a lord-level monster known as the Feathered Serpent Dragon Princess, and she remarked that the humans carried a strangely nostalgic scent. Bacchus realized that he had never seen a monster like her before. Her soul power was already incredibly strong. If he killed her and brought her corpse back, the guildmaster would surely be pleased. The head at the end of her tail leaned closer and sniffed Bacchus. It informed the princess that he carried the scent of her child's blood. Without hesitation, she attacked him with Wormclaw. Bacchus took the attack head-on. The impact sent him crashing into the ground. At the same time, the ground beside Jim suddenly split open. The Mudskipper King leaped out and froze when he saw several humans lying around. The Mudskipper King thought that devouring the two humans would greatly increase his soul power. With better control over mana, he might even gain enough strength to defeat that slime. He immediately made his move, but before he could reach them, Slime Mold appeared out of nowhere and punched him. Slime Mold warned that the Mudskipper King's entire body was already covered in his mycelium, so escape was impossible. Hearing that, the Mudskipper King quickly suggested that they work together instead. However, as Slime Mold approached him, he accidentally stepped on one of the humans and got distracted. He recognized him as the human who had fled earlier. The Mudskipper King used that brief opening to escape. Slime Mold refused to let him go and activated mycelium teleportation. However, the system reported that the skill had failed because there was no available mycelium connection. However, Slime Mold realized that the area was still unexplored, and the mycelium he had left behind had quickly lost its strength. He cursed after realizing that the Mudskipper King had gotten away. Devouring him would have earned Slime Mold plenty of experience and possibly some new skills. He then turned toward the two humans and wondered why they were lying there. If he remembered correctly, there had originally been 3 of them. Had the other 2 been attacked by monsters? He wondered if they were still alive. If they were already dead, he could simply devour them. With that thought, he lifted the girl's body. But he immediately recoiled in disgust when he saw tentacles sticking out of her mouth. The system reported that the human had been infected by the sanctified fall factor. The encyclopedia explained that the origin of the sanctified fall factor was unknown, though it was believed to come from an alternate universe. It possessed the power to alter the structure of living creatures. Slime Mold remembered Gon mentioning the sanctified fall. He had been told that the Holy Sea created it, but its true origin remained unknown. The frog and owl he had encountered before were both products of the sanctified fall. Now he knew that it could infect humans as well as monsters. He decided to decompose the foreign object and see if he could save the girl. If anything went wrong, he could still disconnect himself in time. The system displayed several notifications: foreign object discovered, and antibody activated. The decomposition succeeded, earning him experience points. The encyclopedia was also updated with information about the sanctified fall embryo, an embryo that was reconstructing an unknown life form. Slime Mold was surprised to learn that he possessed an antibody, especially since he had no idea how he had obtained it. He had finished decomposing the part inside her mouth, but he suspected that even more was hidden inside her body. He activated search and was shocked to discover a massive lump inside her. Even as he devoured it, the thing continued growing throughout her body. Slime Mold could handle it, but if this continued, the girl's insides would be completely hollowed out. Things were about to get messy. He grabbed hold of the tentacles. Then he violently yanked them out of her mouth. The tentacles twisted wildly inside his hand, causing him to complain about how disgusting they were. Thanks for watching, bros. If you enjoyed this update, make sure to drop a like and hit subscribe so you never miss the next chapter we upload here on Manhwa Updater. New episodes from the main Manhwa dealer channel will always land here every week, so stick around and stay updated. And hey, if you want more fire stories, check out the latest upload on the main channel right after this. As always, stay cool, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.